Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. No, on the nature of Earth. I will get there eventually. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, before I shout out all the people who we are joined for, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of the people who support me on Patreon. So massive shout out to Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Billy Highvolt, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As The Earth, Chow Young Cat, Dank, David Wayne Foster, Edwin Johnson, scroll down, Felix Hung, Fireball X, Godrockin, Jeronism, Kirsten Smith, Life Is Short, Matt, Michael, Page Love, Qatar Craig, Reinhardt, Renee, Sam Hine, Skeptic 936, Sweet Equity, Texas Mike, theflatearthchannel.com, and Tina Baker. Massive shout out to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now, we are joined in Google Plus by Arwin, Righteous Force, and 10th Man. I don't know where Flatzoid's gone, but hello all of you.
Good morning.
Yeah. And, have we got anybody on Discord? There's a couple of people.
I'm on Discord.
Oh, hello, 10th Man. I could have swore you were in the Hangout.
I was trying to get in, but it won't let me in. I'm trying.
Yeah, I've had a few technical issues myself this morning. I don't know, it's a weird day. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
Hello.
Hello. Any signs of Earth curvature?
No.
No? Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nope.
None of that either.
Nope.
Scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Gravity. Scientific evidence thereof.
You gotta get higher stuff, man.
Here's some mumblings from Discord. Any scientific evidence of gravity, though?
None
It's red.
whatsoever.
You gotta turn Redman up. He's got a crappy mic during the day.
Hey man, I don't know if I can. That's as high as he goes.
As good as it gets. It's okay.
Important though that all those screws.
Yeah, next Thursday maybe sometime. Anyway, any evidence of a Good morning. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, no evidence.
Maybe in the pseudo-Romanian realm.
What, for space?
Yeah. Maybe it's over there.
Maybe. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
No such thing.
Nope.
Discord, anybody?
What's up, guys?
No chocolate.
Hey, chocolate. What was it you called yourself yesterday? Oh,
God.
Don't remind me. It's on the tip of my tongue. You're talking about being chocolate. Was it chocolate helicopter? No, I know. It was chocolate airwolf.
Yeah.
Chocolate airwolf.
Yep.
That's
what I did.
10th Man was. I was joking around in the comment section when people start bashing transsexuals, and I don't like it very much. Plus, I don't know, it's just not very nice. In any event, I just draw the whole thing down to a farcical level and say, well, as a proud black woman, I find the whole thing very offensive or problematic. And Chocolate said he identified as an attack helicopter, as you do, and decided he was going to be called Chocolate Airwolf from now on.
Now I'm going to hear that music
I identify
every
as a
time.
chocolate airwolf. Thank you.
That's
Right.
right. Yeah, that's it.
Great theme song, man.
They played it on the Alex Jones show for all the time for 2 decades. So
Yeah, no.
now I'm gonna think of you every time.
Sean for the super chat. Thank you very much indeed. He says, "Hey Nathan, hey. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?"
No way.
Oh, people in my chat started whining to me today about that. It was so annoying. Just couldn't let it go.
In what way?
Well, they just couldn't accept that an antecedent for gas pressure being a container was sufficient proof that our realm must be contained in order for there to be gas pressure. They just couldn't handle it. Kept on harping on about it.
Did you see the?
Must be something in the
Yes.
water, because just about every action people do has a cause and effect. Why can't they accept that one?
I don't know.
Well, Truth Lover, I don't know if you saw me. I posted in Skype, and you guys were commenting. Some people were commenting if that's what it was. But the Truth Lover and I don't know if it was Zanuck or Kosho were saying that the new gas law is P equals, I guess, lower P R T. They removed the volume from the equation, so you can have pressure as long as you have density, gas specific constant, and temperature. So those are the new formula for a gas law, by the way.
Oh, right. They're just inventing laws now, are they? So how does Boyle's law fit into that?
It doesn't. That's the point. It doesn't.
They're just rejecting Boyle's law?
Pretty much.
I see. That's very interesting.
Because they're saying,
So,
What did
so
they
they
re-
take a letter out of the equation and it all makes sense now?
yeah, and that's something else.
Adorable.
And you were on their Chocolate yesterday where they were talking, like, the way you get Newton and Einstein equations to work, as long as nothing moves at high speeds, it'll work, right? Remember that? Did you hear that on there? I thought that was
I
funny.
remember.
Nah, I didn't hear that one. I must have missed that.
Yeah, so you can merge Newton and Einstein's equations as long as you remove high speeds from it. So, and Einstein only works at high speeds, and Newton only works at slow speeds. Changing the equations, folks.
What high speeds?
Well, like planetary motion, that kind of thing.
Oh, things that we don't have any physical confirmation of, you mean?
Right.
Okay.
And the new axiom from
So
Truth
what
Lover
letter
is basically saying as long as it works, so as long as the equation works, we're good to go.
So what letter did they take
And
out
his
and what
name is
letter did
Truth
they put
Lover.
in?
That's adorable.
Yeah.
I like Truth Lover.
I mean, I think he's got some good
So,
information,
Paul,
and I don't disagree with everything, but some of the stuff I'm going like, really? Go ahead, Righteous Force.
Oh, I said my piece.
No, I was asking.
Oh, I thought you said that.
I was asking.
I was just shouting him out.
Oh.
I was asking what
He's one
letter
of the
did they pull
interesting-
out and what letter did they put in again?
Okay.
Glover is an exclusive follower to the Betty Discord, but not on live shows. It doesn't come on live shows.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope.
Nope.
There's no confirmed measured distance to the sun.
Hey, Sleeping Warrior. Nice that we can actually hear you properly today.
Yeah, I was out and about yesterday. I was busy running around and doing stuff, so I couldn't really join. I was listening, I just couldn't join. Balls. Catches in a sec.
No worries. Well, we got enough of Sleeping Warrior. I'm pleased you did join, even though it's slightly broken connection. That show goes out tomorrow, by the way. Slightly weird numbering's going to be the case over the next few days, mainly because I got my sister coming down on Thursday, so we're going to Warwick Castle, so I've slightly jigged the schedule around. There'll still be shows at the usual time, so they'll just be on the other channel. So hence this is live today on this channel, and the after show will be at 10 PM on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel. But yeah, things will return to normal next week. In case anybody was wondering, nobody probably cares. That concludes the housekeeping then, if there's no evidence of any measured distance to the sun.
No. Just R-based assumptions, pretty much.
It's been a while since we said the prayer for the poor departed globe.
Oh, that's great.
Radius
The
Dominus, Gravitas Spiritus Sanctus, Arwin. Go in peace, fundies, in R you trust.
Orwin.
No. Only Riley does that.
I'm incensed.
Good
You
job.
got that one, eh, Chuck?
Could be a bit quiet in Discord because the link didn't work, so I've just updated that in case anybody tried to get into the Discord server and failed. There's a new link. Just refresh your page. You should be able to get in okay. Well, isn't this nice? You can have at least a 3-second pause in the conversation without certain conversation being totally dedicated to the lack of gas pressure. Given that that's now
before the storm.
It's interesting that now that's fallen to the wayside. We've now got a situation where they're trying to remove volume from being part of their rhetoric. Interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
Anything
Okay.
to remove the requirement of a container, it seems.
Same thing with R. They're trying to remove R from things too.
Yeah.
Well, this morning, thanks to trolls, I tried to look up atmospheric pressure and then gas pressure on my own volition. But Wikipedia doesn't even have a separate page for gas pressure, just pressure. And then I read through it, and scarily enough, they basically put pressure of gas pressure together in with pressure, like weight. It was like, what the? There's no more separate article for gas pressure. It's now been conjoined with weight pressure. Pretty freaky.
Really? We're discussing the subject in detail and how it doesn't work in their reification of a sphere model. You've got to make changes, right?
Presenting it right now.
Got you up.
See, so here's pressure, just pressure. And this is basically, well, kind of gas pressure related explanations, even with the laws of thermodynamics. And then it moves on quickly into this kind of stuff. Wait, where is it here? Fluid pressure. Wait. What? Is this the same?
I certainly see V there.
Whoa. What happened? This doesn't seem to be the same article that I was looking through the other time. It's much bigger.
Maybe it's gone down the memory hole. Who knows?
Wikipedia keeps a log of any changes, so you can look up any change that has ever been made on a Wikipedia article. And you can even look back old pages, I think, from years ago, if you want to. It's at the top or bottom somewhere.
Oh, I say worst case scenario, you can go to use a Wayback Machine, see if they changed it over the last few days.
What's up, Apollo? How you been, man?
Right.
Just returned
Yeah,
from vacation, and I haven't been on this show for some time. And people still think my voice is robotic, but it's a beautiful voice.
Okay. Can you pop yourself on
Anyway,
mute?
there's no mention
on,
within
hold on.
pressure of a container.
They've removed containers,
There is
have
a
they?
reference to the second law of thermodynamics. That's
Oh, wait,
relevant.
what did you say? There's no mention of what? What did you say?
Container. Can you pop yourself on mute, Paul?
Sorry.
Oh, what did you say? There was no sign off.
Now, within the Wikipedia article on pressure, which has conjoined gas pressure with all the other types of pressure, there is no mention of a container.
Yeah,
But
there is.
There is a reference where?
There is. Look on the diagram on the right hand side. Up.
What?
There's container,
it's-
yeah, he's right.
Where?
It's at the top of your page on the right hand side, just above where it says thermodynamics. There you go. What does that say?
This?
Read the words underneath that diagram.
Pressure as exerted by a particle collision inside a closed container. Oh, right.
Yeah, there you go.
Well done, Arwin. Your comprehension skills are fantastic.
No, but I didn't read it within the actual text. It's just
That's
here.
fair
It's just a little thingy. Let me try to find it.
Yeah, well, it's not a surprise that it's still the necessary antecedent.
The other argument too, a part of this is they're saying that the mass or the weight of the particle is what draws it back down, and equivocating because objects can fall down. So they're using, a dense object like a ball to equate that to a gas particle, and saying that's why it falls back down as well. So they're using a false equivalency as well.
Sure, I mean, they can ignore relative density all they like, but it's obviously relative to the medium that you're in. Certain gases might go down depending on what medium they're in.
Right.
If they're particularly dense gases, right? But that doesn't make them behave like tennis balls when they're in gas, which will go down because they're more dense, right?
Well, they're saying the vacuum is the no medium. So, and obviously the particle's more dense than the medium, so that's why it would fall back down.
All right.
Yeah, that's our argument, though.
No, our argument.
There's no word of antecedent in here anywhere.
It's the denial of gas behaviour. Isn't this interesting that arguments have come from the flat Earth side, from Spurs and David, and now the rhetoric changes on the globe side? Isn't that fascinating?
Whilst I was looking for that, let me play a sound clip from Fight the Flat Earth recently. He was asked, how do you have gas pressure next to a vacuum without some kind of container? And obviously his answer is gravity, right? Now, bear in mind that he knows that gravity is not a force. Even if he wants to think of it as a force, it's still not a force. But listen to the way he dogmatically demands that that's the answer. It does contain swearing, so I guess if you've got small children, he only swears once. But let me just play this little clip. It's only about 10 seconds long. So he's asked the question, how do you have gas pressure without a container? And listen to his bloody answer. The guy's not a moron. So here we go. Actually, I might not be able. Yeah, I'll put myself on mute. If this doesn't work, just interrupt me.
There's no mention of the word container in the
Hold on, Arwin.
Thermodynamics.
Arwin, it's just about to play a clip. Obviously, we're not going to hear the clip. You've put yourself on mute in the Hangout, Anthony.
System exists next to a vacuum.
Gravity, you fucking retards. Gravity. Have you ever heard of fucking gravity? Gravity. Gravity!
I made a video of him with the clown nose.
Wow.
Shoutouts to Sheeple.
I love that.
Yeah,
He's saying gravity, right? So now he's saying that gravity is the reason why the atmosphere, why the gas pressure doesn't burst off into space. But we know whatever we're going to have to ask him, what does he mean by gravity? Because if he calls it a force, then he's dead. So he must have his own interpretation of gravity here, because we know it's not gravity doing it, because it can't do anything. It's not a cause, it's an effect. Rumpus.
Well, I'm sure that if Craig has claimed that that's the case, he can demonstrate that, right?
Yeah, we need to know what Craig thinks gravity is.
Sure.
Everybody else
right.
knows it's not a
No
force.
worries.
It's the effect.
I don't know why he's so angry about it. Just show us.
Yeah. Demonstrate it, you moron.
What was it he said? Fucking retard. Let's
Yeah,
have
gravity. Gravity, you moron. Can I
Let's
play it
have
again
a-
just for austerity?
Let's have a demonstration.
Please do.
Let's have a demonstration. Let's have a demonstration of gravity maintaining gas pressure. please.
And we have gravity on the Earth, so let's see us having gas pressure without a container. I mean, I can't. It was that guy the other day on what's it, Ranty's channel. I was asking him, how do you explain the density tower in that container without a container? He said, well, it'll be all over the floor, wouldn't it? I said, exactly. So you need a container. He's like, no, it just means that those particular liquids couldn't exist. I was like, yeah, because you need the container, right? There has to be pressure, like pushing against it and holding it together. And he's like, no, but I was like, come on, I'm not being funny and I'm not being rude. I'm being really polite. But how do you get past that in your mind? And his answer is gravity. And I'm like, but it's not a force. And he thinks I was being funny with him, and I wasn't. But that's the high level of dissonance that these people, they just don't have it. They just say, no, don't take my gravity away from me. And I'm like, it's not a force, dude. It can't do anything. It might be an effect of something, but it's definitely not causing anything. So whatever that thing is that's holding your liquids together in that container, yeah, that's our argument, isn't it? There has to be the container, otherwise it's all over the floor. He doesn't get it.
So he's claiming that the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time is the reason gas pressure can maintain itself next to a lower pressure system. That's what he thinks.
One of the things I brought up to them yesterday on the Discord server was, if you want to prove this, you could technically prove it in a vacuum. Show me how gases will pool at the bottom of the vacuum chamber. And can you guess their response to that when I said that to him?
Go on.
Oh, you can't scale it. It's got to be scale. So the scale is
scale. Oh, I see.
Scale.
So what he's saying is the mere force that we could create, that not particularly even close to a real vacuum that we could create here on Earth, that when scaled up to 10 to the minus 17 torr, which is what they claim the sky vacuum is, they're saying that the reduced effects of gravity when you go higher up, they're going to actually make the 10 to the minus 17 torr of the vacuum less susceptible to the gas wanting to conform to gas behaviour and expand in all directions. And the second law of thermodynamics, where it's going to want to fill that space, the available space, the space that MIT describe as gas wanting to fill, if it's available, which it absolutely is, because there's no container, according to them. Just an open system next to a really, really, really empty space for that gas to just, well, fill. But apparently the gas has got sentience and it gets to the sky and goes, I think I'll stop here. I'm going to stop behaving like gas. Or to put it another way, just to put it another way, that's nonsense. The sky is not a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas would fill the available volume.
There's a guy in chat and he's just said, we give gravity the power by talking about it. Right. The more we talk about gravity, the more it becomes it's a reification, isn't it? Talking about a conceptual thing as though it's real. And we're all arguing over it. Yeah, we have to remember that these morons can't prove gravity, right? Whatever it may or may not be. There may be something there, right? We do have an observed phenomena. Things do move, and it seems to be all by themselves. But we can explain that with a little bit of salt and egg and some water.
What things move all by themselves?
Well, normally when you make something move, you have to push it with a force.
When I make something move, you just said they move all by themselves. What do you mean?
Yeah. So when you push something, you interact with the object.
You said they move all by themselves. I said, what do you mean they move all by themselves? And you go, when you push something.
Well, actually, you interrupted me and I hadn't finished.
My bad.
So if you push something, you interact with the object. And with a push or a pull force, you can make the object move. But we demonstrated, or I demonstrated with my salt experiment, that just by manipulating the medium, the egg moved. Now, what the reason for that is debatable. But we know what it's not. Because we didn't manipulate the claim that is gravity. We didn't manipulate gravity. Gravity simply inferred. Well, that's not the cause. You can't infer causation in scientific method. So something made it move. We know what it wasn't. We might not know what it was, but we do know what it wasn't because we didn't manipulate gravity. So you can't infer gravity did anything. But if you don't know what did cause it, then it moved all by itself. But we know gravity didn't do it. So who knows what causes it? But what we're trying to work out is why did it move initially? And when I asked an MIT professor called Jolyon Bloomfield, he thought I was being funny with him and stopped talking to me because he thought I was whatever. When I asked him, well, what made the apple move when the stalk originally snapped from Newton's apple? And he thought I was being funny with him, but he was unable to answer me. And I think that an MIT level professor should be able to answer what makes the apple initially move when the stalk snaps on Isaac Newton's apple falling from the tree. And he couldn't do it.
Well, part of that,
experiment
I've said this on here
was
before.
really cool.
Even in your egg example, when you're pouring the salt into the container, you're actually adding kinetic energy to that. So the egg begins to move. So any movement, there has to be kinetic energy involved. So no matter what that movement is, even an apple growing up a tree, there's a lot of kinetic energy kind of causing things to move up. And then all of a sudden you release it, and the kinetic energy is released again, and it falls to the ground. They always forget that kinetic energy thing.
Yeah, they also forget the medium, that the medium exists. There is something there, and it is interacted in some way. There are explanations which we're working on in terms of real science. But at the end of the day, we know that it's what it's not because we didn't manipulate it. And for anybody to infer causation in scientific method, you're just a moron. And that's the reason why we know it's not gravity doing it, because we didn't manipulate gravity.
I got to add something on that.
Gravity.
Gas. Hello?
Shout out to Fight the Flat Earth.
Shout out, Troy.
Hello?
Well done.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
What's up,
man.
Tim, man?
Yeah. I was just wanting to, I'm having some technical issues here, but on Nathan's statement about gas filling the available space, I just did a Google search about if you have a gas leak in your house, what is the advice from the experts? And one of them says, open all the doors and windows. You want to make sure you ventilate the house. Because now the house is a container for that natural gas, right? And there was a home that there was a gas leak and it totally blew up and 60 people were injured and one woman died. And they're trying to give safety tips. Well, one of the things is open all the windows so the gas could leak out of the container, the house. It's all over the place. You need a container if you want to hold it.
Yeah. If you look at how a carbon monoxide detector works, you always put a smoke detector on the ceiling of your house because smoke rises, but you put a carbon monoxide detector on the floor, or not on the floor, but low level on the walls of your house, because carbon monoxide is more dense than air, so it fills the room like water does from the bottom up. And basically what that does is they call it the silent killer because it often happens when you're in bed asleep. But the point is that the carbon monoxide is more dense than the air that you're in, and it fills it up like water. And because it's a fluid, because gas is a fluid and it behaves like a fluid, that kind of explains an awful lot when you realize that the carbon monoxide detectors are at the bottom because they're detecting carbon monoxide filling the room up like water, even though it's a gas.
I've been talking with somebody that is making a big vacuum chamber for his job, and he just finished, I think, several weeks ago. So, and we're discussing some experiments we can do in this big vacuum chamber he has made. So that's something that's going to be interesting to record and publish on YouTube. It takes about 15 minutes or so to make a vacuum and 15 minutes to close it. Well, first, it takes about 15 minutes to put the lid on, and then another 15 minutes to suck all the air out. Got the photo I can actually post at the Discord if you want.
I've already kind of talked about the first experiment you could do. Can you show in your massive vacuum chamber how gas can pool at the bottom of it? That would be great. How would you prove that?
The only way it can pool at the bottom is if there's a medium in there already. If it's in a vacuum, it'll fill whatever gas you're using will fill the available volume, and it'll become the medium.
I know, I get you. I'm right on track with you, Anthony. But this would be their way of showing that what their argument is why we have this pressurized system based upon the density issue of the gases that would prove that. If they could prove that in a vacuum chamber, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they won't do it because if it's a true vacuum or it's a strong vacuum, there is nothing in there. So when they put a gas into it, the gas then becomes the gas then becomes the volume, rather than becomes pooled at the bottom, because there wasn't anything in the first place. And we know that it'll fill the available volume. It's only when it's got gas in it, then it'll pool at the bottom, because there is a medium for it to interact with. But if there's no medium, it'll fill the available volume and become the medium.
I don't have the exact specifications of the chamber right now, but the person uses it for something with plasma. I think he uses it for plasma welding. Actually, let me check really quickly what he uses it for. But
So Zinda.
That wasn't Cinder, it was Apollo.
Oh, Apollo.
all right. He uses it for testing prototypes at different atmospheres on temperatures, and he uses it for cold plasma, night riding, and a few other things. He has a workshop where he makes mechanical parts. I'm not sure what he makes, but he said he would love to. One of the things he's working on is a rocket engine, so we can test it in the chamber.
Well, the only problem with the rocket, as soon as you ignite it, there's this thing that is produced by a rocket called a gas. It would fill the space.
Yeah, it thrusts off the gas in it, and it also acts on recoil. It thrusts off itself. So it does create a movement, but it's a minuscule movement, and it's definitely not thrust.
Well, that's what we are going to test. And if you put it at the bottom, and it's pointed up, because it's a cylindrical chamber. It isn't a cube. So if you put it at the bottom, it shouldn't touch the flame shouldn't touch the top. And about the gas, it is a pretty big chamber, so the minute amount of gas that will be created won't compromise the vacuum to enough to make it have an atmospheric pressure great enough to compromise the
No, but you do realize that any
observation,
pressure that goes in it increases the pressure, right?
Well, very little, but if we can pump more air out than the rocket produces, then it shouldn't matter.
You'd have to have the vacuum running whilst you did your rocket tests, so that it was constantly removing the matter that the rocket creates.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The same thing.
One moment.
Anthony, your vacuum pump would have to be enough to overcome the creation of the gas in the system.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I will have to ask. I mean, we're still talking about each other about how we should conduct this observation. So
with the vacuum pump running.
Well, it does work, but like you said, the rocket will create a gas. So we have to think about this. Maybe if we have a very tiny rocket that only creates a tiny amount of gas, and we pump it out faster, then it's able to fill the chamber. Then it shouldn't compromise the vacuum.
Yeah, as long as you got the vac pump running, and then it removes the gas that was created by the rocket, then you're only going to be left with recoil or like a minute effect from the gas that the rocket was creating whilst it was being created. But you're right, you'd have to keep it running.
Well, and the other thing too, you got to think about too. You actually need pressure for chemical reactions to occur. So you're going to have some level of pressure.
The rocket nozzle has to be filled with a fuel and an oxidizer, and then of course you need an igniter, and this will create an expansion of the fuel inside this rocket nozzle.
Can I pose a question?
Yeah, go.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so 10 to the minus 17 torr is the number they give us for the vacuum in space. Space is infinite. Now here you are talking about creating some kind of cylinder with sides, bottom and top, which means a container. Then you're going to use a mechanical device to take all the air out. So it's not exactly mimicking 10 to the minus 17 torr with no sides. Your vacuum chamber has sides, top and bottom. So isn't this fall under one of the control variables that might explain some of these anomalies that happen when you do a vacuum within a container when space is not a container?
Sorry, I apologize. I was actually posting a photo of the chamber and I got this. I didn't listen to you, sorry. I was posting a picture. Can you repeat yourself? Sorry, I'm sorry.
Wow, that was a long one.
In short, he just said, how do you do a vacuum without a container?
Well, we will... Also, this is about the older experiment that... observation. Well, we will use the vacuum inside the vacuum chamber, and then we will put all the equipment inside it. So it will be we will observe it inside a vacuum. Of course,
yeah, but my question is for equal opportunity. 10 to the minus 17 torr in outer space does not have any bottom, sides, top. So you've got to recreate 10 to the minus 17 torr to match the real vacuum of space that they're saying exists. So you have to do it without a container.
Well, I don't know the exact specifications of the chamber, so I can't tell you right now.
You haven't listened to his question.
You're missing the point. There is no specifications in the vacuum of space. There is no sides, bottom, or top in space.
Yeah, how do you have a vacuum without a container?
Well, we can't conduct this observation in space because it doesn't exist. And
thank you. That's my point.
Yeah. So we need to create an artificial vacuum. Otherwise, there is no possible way you can conduct
artificial vacuum using a container that doesn't exist in the space vacuum. How's that ever going to work?
Well,
to be fair, Tanth Man, I think he's actually showing humor. He got the gag.
We obviously can't create a vacuum as strong. I mean, that's whatever. We can't create a vacuum as vacuumous as they say space is, but we have to do the best thing we can do with human technology, right? So
okay. So then, whatever your findings are, you're going to have an asterisk saying this is done with a container and does not mirror anything about outer space.
I will.
That's a good point.
Your comment has been duly noted and will be published in the YouTube video. Yeah. Can I actually use your this audio sample then? That would be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so obviously we need to get an artificial vacuum, so there's no other way around it. Unless journalism makes a rocket that goes to space, then we have to do it on Earth.
But do you see the comedy of the whole thing? In their pseudoscience space program, we send rockets up into this vacuum of space that doesn't exist. But for the time being, let's say it does, to make the comedy happen. The ISS is a container with oxygen in it so that the vacuum of the supposed space doesn't take all the oxygen. You're trying to do the opposite test here on Earth by creating a container and putting a vacuum that should be outside the ISS inside the container. Both need a container. It's so comical.
Well, you could make a small international space station and then put it inside our chamber and then have it rotate around a ball.
That would be fantastic. Make sure you don't have any wires showing.
No, they got one already. It's just in a pool.
Well, even on the other side,
we will also put the vacuum chamber inside the pool, so it can.
Well, even if you did that, you still have to scale it, because if you use the same thickness of skin that the current ISS is supposed to have, it would be scaled wrong. So you'd have to get the scale of the thickness of the skin down to that size to go in the vacuum chamber. So you're still having scaling issues.
Yep, problems.
I know
problems everywhere.
Yeah, I'm also talking with somebody who works in the aeronautic space industry. So if I want something calculated on spacecraft design, I can just ask him, and maybe he will do it for me if I ask nicely.
Apollo, are you still a ball earther, right? What's your position at the minute?
I think I'm still ball earther, but I haven't followed you guys. I haven't really followed this flat earth stuff in some time. I went on vacation and did some other stuff.
Okay,
lots of other stuff.
Just explain to me, why don't you have an issue with gas pressure and like the sky vacuum that Nathan says? Why does that not have an issue? Why is that not creating an issue for you that we have gas pressure next to a vacuum without a membrane of some kind? Why does that not bother you?
Well, the argument against this has already been said multiple times, and Nathan gets angry, I guess, whenever somebody does that. So,
what is the argument against it?
Well, that's the. I'm not gonna say it. Whoa, I'm not gonna say it. It will just be a repetition of so many other videos, and I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, but you're on the flat Earth debate, and we're asking how do you have gas pressure next to a vacuum without some kind of container? And you say there's an alternative argument, and I ask you what the argument is, and you say you don't want to say. Why is it that you don't want to say if you believe that what you're about to say is true?
Well, it is the up to a certain height we can measure a pressure gradient, but we can only go so high with things like balloons. So at some point, you would have to make a mathematical equation, and that isn't science according to some people. So
what's the counter argument for how you can have gas pressure without a container?
Because that argument would mean what you are saying would mean what you are saying would mean the atmospheric pressure is the same everywhere, because it has equalized because there is a container.
No, but you
there
understand.
is-
No, so you're creating a distraction, which is to do with the atomic weight of gases, and we're not going down that distraction. What I'm asking is, what's the counter argument for how you can have gas pressure without a container next to a vacuum? How do you do it?
Because there is a pressure gradient, and we know at which height there is this lower pressure than, let's say, ground pressure.
All right, that's
then
not
you-
the question
it is
I
a-
asked. The question I asked was how do you have the pressure gradient without a container?
Well, how do you have a pressure gradient at all? Because there isn't a container between the different pressure gradients.
So you at least acknowledge that you need a container to have a pressure gradient, right?
No. So let's say so you would need a container between 14 psi, 13 psi, which I think is atmospheric pressure at ground level, on 0 psi of the vacuum. You would need a container to get that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so would you need a container to get a pressure differential between 10 on 0 psi?
You would need a container to have the 10 in the first place.
Yeah, you've got a PSI value. You've got a square inch value, haven't you? Square inch of what?
Pressure per square inch, yes.
Yeah, square inch of what?
I think of
The
air.
volume, isn't it?
Pressure per square inch of air, right?
Arsenic.
No, it'd be square inch of the volume of the container.
The volume of the... I don't follow. I think PSI is about air pressure, right?
Yeah, what does PSI stand for?
Pressure per square inch.
Or pounds per square inch, but yeah, so square inch of what?
The volume, Apollo.
No, inch. A
Yeah,
square
Per
inch,
square
right?
inch of what?
Well, it depends on the gas inside.
Inside what? A container, by chance?
Indeed.
So, to have a PSI value, you need a container then?
We were talking about pressure differential between ground level and a vacuum, not about the definition
No,
of
you were.
PSI.
And Anthony pointed out that you can't have gas pressure gradient without a container either, because a gradient with its multiple PSI values would also require a container. You can't have gas pressure gradients without having gas pressure, and you can't have gas pressure without a container.
So what's the counter?
So,
Apollo?
Wait a minute.
Fairview Road. What?
Oh, some fundy rumblings I hear.
Been up with the flat Earth
come on.
debate. Just give it my
For
address.
about 3
Apologies.
years now.
Oh, sorry, John. Go ahead.
Have you been keeping up? I'm getting a bad echo, man. Have you been keeping up to date with the flat Earth debate for the past 3.5 years, Apollo?
Balls.
Of course.
I think Apollo
Then
got
how-
cornered and
how
left
in the
one day and we
world
never saw him
can
again.
you-
Oh,
How
hold
in
on,
the
Anthony.
world? Oh my God!
Just Quantum Eraser, just a pop.
What compels you people to talk over me? Can anyone tell me that, please?
Stop moaning, just get on with it.
I'm on mute.
Yeah.
All right. I asked him, has he been keeping
Hi,
up
I
to date
just
with
came
the
back.
flat Earth debate over 3.5 years? He said yes. And then
Oh.
the answer to the question, how can you have gas pressure without a container? You say gas pressure gradients? Are you retarded?
That
That's a
is what I
question.
said.
That is what you said, gas pressure gradients, right? So gas pressure gradients are delta
Yeah.
X. Gas pressure is X. How can you have delta X before you have X?
Good question.
Sorry, I'm really not good at math. So
Math.
not sure. Oh, you mean there shouldn't be any pressure at all, so therefore there shouldn't be a gradient. There can only be a gradient if you have a pressure which is only possible inside a container.
That's right.
Yes,
Gas
you
pressure
got it.
gradient. You have to have gas pressure before you have a gas pressure gradient. Yes. It's profound, I know.
I think I have been looking into this flat earth stuff 4 years, maybe 4 years, 5 years, something like that.
So 4 or 5 years in, I want to know how you get past this gas pressure without a container issue in your head. If you're going to say the G word, we're going to attack you straight away. You realise that, right?
But no, that's not what he's done. He's expressed his misapprehension about if you have gas pressure in the first instance, that would mean you have an even pressure, and because we have a gas pressure gradient, that would imply that we've got a sky vacuum. I don't really know the connection, but that's what he said so far.
Yeah, but he's ignoring the fact that gases have got atomic weight by asking that question.
Don't worry about that. Keep
Yeah,
them on
it's
the
a distraction.
subject.
Okay, but he's already explained it. He summarised our point. So he said, your point being that you can't have a gas pressure gradient without having gas pressure, or as Quantum Eraser put it, you can't have delta X unless you've got X. Delta X being gas pressure gradients, X being gas pressure. The original argument being, how do you have gas pressure without a container? And by virtue of a value assigned by Apollo, PSI, that denotes the amount per inch of the container. How does he get past it, Anthony? He doesn't. No fundy with a sky vacuum belief. Let's rephrase that. Those of you in the audience who believe the sky is a vacuum, otherwise known as outer space, cannot prove that which you believe. It violates several laws of nature. You need the
I
antecedent.
want Apollo to answer it, though. I don't want you to answer it for him. I want Apollo to answer it.
Right. So you can't have a gas pressure without a container.
Correct.
But wouldn't that also mean you couldn't have a pressure gradient at all?
Yeah, but we have a pressure gradient, don't we?
Sorry, let me. So a higher pressure will always feel a lower pressure, right? For example, if you have a box with 10 psi and a box with 5 psi and you connect them together, they even each other out. The higher pressure,
Correct. Yes. Yes, that would be. Yes, that would be entropy. Yes, given enough time. Yes, that's correct.
Then your next question is, well, why is the atmosphere even? Because you haven't kept up the debate to date with the flat earth debate. That's why.
Yeah, but just he hasn't asked that question yet. So
yeah, he's going to.
Given that entropy is directly proportional to time, and given enough time, what you assert is correct, and those gases would even out by way of entropy, is your next question, why aren't they even in our atmosphere? Is that your next question?
Yes, it is.
Okay. We are living in a dynamic system. The gases are produced at ground level, not in the middle of the sky, not at the top of the sky, but at ground level. So the highest concentration of gases is at ground level, where we see the highest pressure. That will get lower as you go up. There are also multiple dynamic systems at play. Carbon system, the nitrogen system.
Hydro.
Sorry, go on.
Hydro.
Yeah, the
The
hydrological
hydrologic
system.
cycle, the nitrogen cycle, CO2 cycle, 3 the big ones.
Right.
Right?
So
So
there's many,
difference.
there's many
So-
dynamic systems going on in regards to gas. But
So
ultimately,
it's
they're
a different-
produced at ground level, where the highest concentration is.
So it's a false equivalence fallacy to take a box, which is a closed static system, and then say, well, the Earth should be that way too. No, we have a closed dynamic system instead of a closed static system. Understand?
So Apollo,
So
how do you reconcile the gas pressure point that I asked you about before? How do you get past this? Explain it to me. Come on.
well, it was the pressure gradient that I talked about that we are currently discussing.
No, my question is, how do you get past the gas pressure next to the vacuum point without a container? My question is not about the density gradient, which we can demonstrate and explain with real science that we can demonstrate on a small scale. It needs a container. So my question is, how do you explain in your own mind how you have gas pressure without a container?
Well, you can just keep this pressure gradient going unless you basically have a vacuum. So you can
You
just
can't have
where'd you get the pressure gradient from?
gradients without a container. How many times we got to tell you?
You can't have the pressure gradient without a container.
and this, but there is a pressure gradient because of the dynamic system.
Cares about the pressure gradient. You can't have a gas pressure gradient without a container. Are you? Is my mic working?
Yeah, he's not listening, or it's not going in. It's one or the other. So Apollo, how do you have the pressure gradient without a container? Come on.
Just 1 second, Anthony. Is it your opinion, Apollo, that you can't that a gas pressure gradient would defy the necessity to have a container? Is that your opinion?
Sorry, I had to listen to somebody in my house.
No worries,
Can
I'll
you
just repeat what I
yourself?
asked. So, is it your opinion that having a gas pressure gradient defies the need for a container? Is that your opinion?
Yes.
Okay, so on both sides of the argument, you can check out either Good Times for All, GUDTIMS, number 4, ALL, for a demonstration of a gas pressure gradient, obviously with the necessary antecedent of a container. You can also check out Blue Marble Science, also fondly referred to as Hillbilly Blue Balls, with
The redneck retard.
with a demonstration of a gas pressure gradient. Again, with the necessary antecedent of a container. So on both sides of our argument, there are physical demonstrations of gas pressure gradients with a container. What we definitely don't have, though, Apollo, unless you can correct me, of course, is a demonstration of a gas pressure gradient, or indeed a gas pressure, without a container. So unless we can have a affirmative demonstration of a gas pressure gradient or a gas pressure without a container, we can firmly put our stamp on it being what it is, the necessary antecedent. You can't have a per square inch value if you haven't got something to measure a square inch value of. That would be the thing that it's pressing on. That would be the container. So in this regard, given that there are demonstrations on both sides of the argument of gas pressure gradients in containers, would you concede that you still need a container to have a gas pressure gradient?
Can you define antecedent for me? Because I don't know the words and I want to be on the same page as you.
Sure, like
Antecedent.
something which you cannot have without the other thing. So the antecedent for a steak would be a cow. You can't have that. Well, I suppose you could have a tuna steak, but you know, presumably it's a
Ribeye.
A ribeye. There you go, T-bone, whatever. One that's obviously come from a cow. Well, the antecedent for that steak is the cow. You couldn't have that steak without first having a cow.
All right. Yes.
Well, gas pressure, the necessary antecedent to have gas pressure is a container.
Like having an arsehole to fart. If you couldn't fart because you didn't have an arsehole, you would want an arsehole, wouldn't you? Well, we're saying, well, we want to fart, and we have an arsehole, right? But how do you guys fart if you don't have an arsehole?
Right, let's heighten that bar, really.
Yes, and more importantly, the gas would fill the space.
Antecedent.
Yeah, he still hasn't answered the question, how do you have delta X before you have X?
Correct.
It's the same thing.
Well, we'll run over slightly, so I doubt we'll get an answer, but we'll give him one more opportunity, and then I'll ask people to stay tuned if they're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980. So, do you have an answer for the live audience? There's a good couple of hundred people watching, Apollo.
Yeah, hey, could you listen? Could you stop
your
for 1
name's
or
not
2
Apollo.
minutes? Hey, I know that, but can you hold off for 1 or 2 minutes before you close out? Thanks.
So what you're saying is, so you're going to ruin this nice, concise point with either a nice, prolonged silence, which will then get interrupted by a plug for probably Quantum Eraser channel. Am I wrong?
I'm not plugging anything. That's highly presumptive on your part.
Yes, it is. Go ahead, Apollo. How do you have gas pressure without a container?
We all had a nice thought train going on, but I actually, because of all the people talking on stuff on my other question, I actually forgot what you said.
Oh, no worries.
So
how
Nathan,
can you have gas pressure, gas that presses, without something for it to press upon?
Oh, actually, I just remember you were talking about some experiments done by both sides.
Answer the question first, then
no, you can't detect it. I detect his tone. I know what it's doing. Okay, would this be a mercy plea, Apollo?
No, but you were talking about the experiments done by both sides that used a closed container.
Not experiments, but yes.
I was thinking about that, thinking of an answer, and then I forgot what I was talking about because I asked another question and people were talking.
Okay.
My memory is very good. So.
No, I don't mind picking up from there. So yes, there's 2 demonstrations that are easily accessible. One from Blue Marble Science, where he puts butane into atmospheric pressure in a pipe and creates a gas pressure gradient. There's also another one where the gas inside a container is heated at the bottom, cooled at the top to create a gradiated identical pressure. That's on Good Times for All. So there's 2 different physical demonstrations of gas pressure gradients within containers.
Yeah, really. Thanks for picking up. I saw the one with the pipe, but so according to you, it is a container, even though the top of the pipe isn't closed. I think, or is it?
Yes, that would still be a container. In the same way, if you've ever had do you drive a car?
No, I don't.
Have you ever known somebody who's owned a car with a slow puncture?
No.
Do you know what a slow puncture is?
No.
A slow puncture.
Do you know what a car is?
A slow puncture is where you run over a nail, for instance, and the tyre retains pressure but slowly loses pressure because the container, which it is, the tyre, it's still a container, has got a hole in it. Well, Hillbilly Blue Ball's pipe is a container with a hole in it, like a tyre with a nail in it. So it effectively. Sorry, go on. Go ahead. Sorry.
So what is your definition of a container then? What is your definition of a container then?
Will it be an enclosed surface that you can measure a per square inch value of?
So, well, an enclosed space, but if there is a hole, it isn't an enclosed space anymore now.
Yeah, it'd be an open container. Difference is open and closed. So in the case of an open container, it's got a hole in the top. So a fish tank, you could define as an open container. A cup is an open container. A tyre with a hole in it, or a pipe, is an open container.
So we're still back to the question,
Alright.
Apollo. Go on, Apollo. How do you have gas pressure in the atmosphere next to the vacuum of space without some kind of containment? How do you get past that as a ball earther? Come on, just be honest. If you're going to say gravity, just say it.
Don't lead him.
You're too eager.
I know, but we've got nowhere.
Gravity!
Just calm down. Waiting for Apollo. I don't mind the silence.
Gravity, I guess.
Gravity, you guess. Is that what you said?
No.
Gravity, right?
No, you said density. I think is what he said.
Yeah.
What did he?
No,
Density.
I said gravity indeed. I mean, I screamed gravity. If you want to be accurate.
Oh, is that you? I thought that was Arwin.
No.
But is
No,
gravity
that wasn't me.
The reason why I'm asking is I want to know what your brain tells you is the answer that you accept. If you accept gravity, then say gravity. If it's not gravity, tell us what it is that allows you to believe you can have gas pressure next to a vacuum without a container. Just tell me what you think.
Well, it is gravity that's holding down the molecules. That's it.
Oh, it's gravity. So
Yeah.
you're flat Earth. Fight the flat Earth. It's gravity, you retard. Is that what you're saying? Right?
I screamed gravity, but it didn't say retard, so I get some points for that.
Let's give clarity again. Yes, that is what he said. He said gravity.
Okay.
For clarity.
And
hold on.
and-
Just hold on.
Oh,
Just for clarity. Apollo, what is gravity?
Yep.
Yes.
Gravity is yes.
Yes. Great answer.
Come on, Apollo. What's gravity?
I'm keeping the live show open for this. This is good.
This is very far apart. I don't know. I'm not a physicist. I leave that up to smarter people, smarter people like you guys
How does
to debate
gravity
about
interact?
it endlessly for
Hold
almost
on.
1,000 episodes.
Come on. What's gravity? Yes, we're holding your toes to the fire, but we're doing it in a nice way.
I don't know what gravity is. Sorry. I mean, some people say it's a force. Some
believe
people
it.
say it's bendy space-time. I don't know anymore.
Okay.
Sorry.
Should we
So I
enlighten
can't help you
then?
with that.
I'm happy to enlighten you. In this instance, modern day heliocentric worshipping nonsense, is that it's the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time, a place that doesn't exist being bent to cause a non-force that you can think of as a force, but doesn't actually do anything because it's not a force. So that definitely doesn't hold gas pressure. So I know your first answer was gravity, but do you have a second answer? Or maybe you're going to hold on to that first answer now. We shall see.
I guess an open container of some kind. I guess.
Yeah, an open container. Well, no, it doesn't even have sides. It's like a marble. Your
like
world of sphere, that is, with the sky vacuum.
Jimbo Con says, "Who cares if it's a force or not? We know it's still there, so you can explain to a noob why it can't hold molecules down. Thank you."
Yeah,
Well, let's let George, the Pontiff Maximus of Globetardia, speak to it. And this goes back to the elongation of the show, Nathan. I was going to finish up my point, which you presumed I was going to use a plug, but he used the same answer as the Fat Earth did. But according to George of Globetardia, the Pontiff Maximus of Globetardia, there was a question put to him the other day by Adam, our Adam here. The question was, why does gas behavior with respect to elastic collisions not take into account gravity except when required to create a force field? George the retard of Globetardia's response: the gravitational field forces of gravity between individual molecules is so minute and so overpowered by the kinetic energy that it doesn't enter in. It's so insignificant. The gravitational forces are going to be trillions of times less than the kinetic energy of the molecules. It's just not going to come into play.
It's insignificant, like your dick.
Hold on.
Sorry, what?
So how the hell is that holding our atmosphere then?
It's not. That's double
retarded.
speak. He's got a force that's so insignificant. This is total doublespeak.
So, how does the gravity hold the atmosphere on the Earth?
We've already covered that. It doesn't.
I want him to answer, though. I know you've covered it, but I want him to answer.
Because
well, it's not okay to just believe shit.
He was just about to answer.
Well, I've been told it is because gravity is holding down the molecules and they combine in weight down to our atmospheric pressure, but I can't test that. So, unfortunately, I don't know. I can't really help you with that. I'm not really knowledgeable on the subject of physics.
So would you agree then it's a belief, you just accept it because you believe that it's true for whatever reason, right?
No comment.
Apollo, you said you're going to do a demonstration for the vacuum chamber a friend of yours is building. You are proving in an opposite way what we're saying. You need to create a box or a cylinder, seal it off from the atmosphere here on Earth, and then somehow pull all the atmosphere out of that box or cylinder to create what's known as a vacuum. Notice you can't do it without the box or cylinder. Now, what we're saying is we have an atmosphere that would go in every direction if it was meeting the vacuum of space. But if it had a container, it wouldn't. This is not clear to you?
Yeah, it is. And I think you know what I could say, but I don't want to say it because then you guys you all go and rant about it. Really, I'm just excited for that this vacuum chamber is finished and we get to do some observations and we'll publish those. And those are tangible things, you know, everybody can do. And I think that's also really interesting, and that's something I wanted to say.
So you're going to use a container. You're going to use a container to prove a vacuum. But when the container is needed to hold air in, you're going to dismiss that?
One step at a time.
You're living in denial.
Well, let him just build it, you know, and we'll see. Maybe you'll let us do little tests.
Oh no, I'm not saying don't build it, don't do demonstrations. Do it all day you want. I mean, you need a container to have no air, and you need a container to have air. What's he proving?
He doesn't realize he's proven that you need to have containment to do any of this stuff with gas.
I'll just ask one last question just before we round out.
You can't create a vacuum without a container either. So.
Oh, then just one last question. So, in your vacuum chamber, do you think it would be feasible for you to put, let's say, a marble inside that container, vacuum, my bad, and have it retain a gas pressure gradient on the outside of the vacuum that's approximately, let's say it's 1/10 the size of the marble itself? Do you think that would be possible?
Sorry, you broke up for me.
No worries, I'll just repeat it. So, in your vacuum chamber, would it be possible for you to use a piece of fishing wire, for the sake of argument, and suspend a marble in the centre of the vacuum chamber, and on that marble, not in, on the marble, would it be possible to have a gas pressure gradient? And if, let's say, the marble is 1 centimetre, could you have a 1 millimetre gas pressure gradient on the outside of that marble inside your vacuum chamber?
Maybe.
Or any
we
gas
will
pressure
find
at
out,
all.
won't we? But how do you measure the pressure on the marble? You need a very, very tiny, measurement.
Barometer.
Hold on. You tell me. how do you measure pressure?
There are different ways different devices with different mechanics that measure a pressure. There are electronic ones or analog ones, or
What are they measuring?
Oh, hello. So I just want to raise. So basically.
What the hell was that? Was that an attempted porn?
Some troller. Hopefully.
Thanks for that.
Yes, thank you so much. So Apollo, just picture your vacuum chamber. Yeah, with a little marble in the middle of it. Do you think it would be possible to have any sort of gas attached to the outside of that marble inside your vacuum chamber?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can do that. Just need
really
to give it some time, you know. Yeah. Yeah, I will hold you on that.
Billions of years?
I will hold you on that.
You say we can do that, give it some time. You mean we can do that in the future?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe tomorrow. Who knows?
Okay, so if you believe that that's possible, at a fundamental level, you don't understand how gas behaves then. The nature of gas is that it will expand in all directions and fill the container that it's in. And the point of a vacuum chamber is to... Hold on there, Apollo. The point of a vacuum chamber is to remove the gas. So you're saying inside your vacuum chamber, something designed to remove gas, you can have a marble suspended in the middle of it with gas attached to it, inside a device designed to remove gas. Is that what you believe?
No, I was just joking. There won't be a pressure around the marble.
There won't be. What about if that vacuum was an infinitely ever-expanding vacuum? Do you think that would make it more or less likely for that marble to retain gas pressure on the outside?
So it's bigger, basically.
Yeah. So you've said that no, inside that vacuum, yeah, the gas would fill the space, right? Inside your vacuum chamber, the marble wouldn't have gas on the outside of it. It would fill the available volume. And if there's a pump on the outside, it would go outside the pump, right? Now I'm just saying make that bigger. So instead of a vacuum chamber, we're going to make it theoretically infinitely expanding. And we've got the same tiny little marble inside that vacuum. Would that marble be able to retain gas pressure on the outside of it?
No.
So what if I called that marble the blue marble? Would that be able to retain gas pressure on the outside of it?
Yeah, because of a 5-letter word. 5 letters.
Jeez.
But I'm not gonna say it because then we will go on ranting about it. So
yeah, there's no hope for him.
He's trolling.
He's circle jerking us.
Sure.
Apollo.
I don't want to say it because it has already been said so many times, and I think it's unnecessary.
But that's
what
we're
Wait. That's okay. Let me ask him a question. Does that marble have gravity?
Well, that's not what I wanted to say, but if it's a really big blue marble, sure.
So you're saying that small marble does not have gravity, but the big blue marble does. Is that what you're saying?
The smaller marble has less gravity. It's a different sorry.
Scale.
Yeah, there we go. I knew that.
No, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say something else.
Hey, Apollo. So tell me why in the current physics model no gravity?
Sorry, in what physics model? I couldn't.
Standard physics model use gravity. Why?
I don't know. I haven't read up on physics models, so I can't answer any questions about that.
Yeah, but
okay. I think I'm going to call mercy on this. So if you do want to watch the continuation of this conversation, then you need to subscribe, if you're not already, to Nathan Oakley 1980, where this will continue on the after show. If you are watching on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. However, if you're watching this on Nathan Oakley live stream, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in, smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
You said earlier that you're going to leave it up to smarter people to figure things out and believe them. So this last gentleman said that the current understanding of physics is that there is no gravity. So how can you use that as an argument if you're going to leave it to smarter people to tell you?
Which gentleman said
Well,
that?
I don't know where he got that information from.
You mean you're not keeping up with the bending of time-space and it's no longer mass attracting mass?
No, I'm not keeping up with
Anthony, can you explain what happened there between bendy space-time overtaking mass attracting mass so that he can understand that the current understanding of physics is there is no gravity?
Before you do, can I just point out that keeping up, this is 100 years old. Just want to point that out.
Yeah, 100 years old.
Yeah, but he doesn't even have a car. I mean, come on, give him a break.
Apollo, I'll be honest. You're a polite guy, but you're trolling very politely, aren't you? Because you know that you can't have a gas pressure next to the vacuum of space without a container, right? You know that intrinsically, but you can't accept it because you know that you're trolling us.
Well, I sound like I'm trolling, but sometimes I don't want to say a certain thing because I know it has been said, I know it has been debated on here, and I know I can't add anything of value to the conversation on that particular subject. So
but when the question is to you from me, I'm asking you, how do you, in your own mind, how do you accept that gas pressure can exist next to the vacuum of space? You look into the night sky, you see stars. That's a vacuum up there, mate. Can't have gas pressure in it. You look at it every single night. But we ask, how do you have that without a container? And you know you can't have it without a container. It's in the definition everywhere, right? You can't demonstrate it without. And we keep asking. And when we ask, and you just say, well, gravity. And we say, look, that may well be the answer as far as the nonsense that we're taught goes. But real world, gravity doesn't exist. It's not a force. It might exist as an effect, but it isn't interacting with anything. It's not pulling. It's not pushing. And when I ask you, how do you reconcile that in your mind with your mind? If the answer is gravity, and we say, but gravity doesn't do anything, how then do you reconcile that?
Well, because I want to believe in the globe Earth. That is why.
See, now that's the honest answer that most ballers should be prepared to say, and they don't want to say it. They want to believe in a ball Earth.
Bravo.
Yeah, that was very honest, Paulo.
More sense.
The pity you couldn't do it whilst we were live.
Problem is,
no, it's going to be in the after show, right? So that's going to premiere tomorrow or something.
Yeah, but at least you're able to admit that you want to believe in a ball Earth.
The problem is there's no alternate explanation for the effect that gravity has on things.
There is.
Density,
why do you think that there's not?
There just simply isn't. I mean, density is.
There is, dickhead. Listen, there is.
Together and things.
Listen, there is an alternative explanation. The fact that you dismiss it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Okay, so why do things move in a downward direction when dropped out of an airplane? Why don't they
depends on what the thing is, and it depends on the medium it's in. We know that a helium balloon, when dropped out of a plane, will rise.
But that.
Whatever, please.
You're saying you know that this will happen, but density doesn't explain why that happens.
That's not what I said. Let me re-say it. You said that we know things will drop out of a plane, and I said if we drop a helium balloon out of a plane, we know it'll rise. So what does that tell you?
Yes,
it's telling you that relative to the medium it's in, helium is less dense. And then you say density doesn't explain it. It fucking does. The fact that you disagree with it doesn't mean it's not true.
Apollo, are you still... Hello, Apollo?
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing? My name is Brian.
Well, somebody else is having a conversation. Maybe you should.
This will include what was being said there. Apollo, four different gases rise from ground level. Helium, hydrogen, and methane rise because they are lighter than the air. Hot air rises due to heat. In the Blue Marble Science demonstration showing gas pressure, what he was trying to show was gas pressure without a container. He showed butane inside a pipe with a small hole at the top of the pipe. Butane is heavier than air, so it wasn't going to leave straight away. It was going to take time to leave. It could take a week to leave, maybe longer. So everything that is lighter than air will always go up. Everything that is heavier than air will always come down.
Yes.
Yeah. So why would anyone believe in gravity?
So why isn't the atmosphere full of nice, neat layers? Because it's partially nitrogen, partially oxygen, partially
Atomic weight.
other gases.
Atomic weight. We live in a dynamic system, and there's a big, massive sun that mixes it all up on top of the dynamic system that we live in. Don't you understand how that works?
But these things are clearly different densities.
Yeah, that's the reason we get separation. You know the thing before that you said doesn't explain it, and now you're using it?
No, I'm saying that density doesn't explain why that happens.
Yes, it does.
Well,
You've just illustrated it with your own explanation.
Isn't density the cause and then buoyancy would be the effect? So without a density change, then you wouldn't even have a buoyancy effect. Does that make sense?
Density is the cause, the change in pressure is the effect. We see that.
Gravity.
Say that again.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said. That there was two people talking.
You can't have either weight or buoyancy without gravity.
Yeah, you can. We have the real world and we don't have gravity.
What's gravity?
Yeah, define gravity, please.
Yeah, buoyancy was discovered like 1,000 years before gravity. They understood buoyancy. They understood the mass was.
Hang on, the guy that just spoke. What's your name? Not you, sir. And the guy that just spoke that said density doesn't explain stuff. Who was that?
It's Wardy.
Pardon?
You're basically trying to say that density is an alternate explanation and it replaces everything that we explained with gravity. But
so what's your name, please?
Because there are situations that are explained with gravity that are not explained with density.
Sir,
and then
can you tell me what your name is so I can address you?
Wardy. Weight, which require gravity.
Name's Wardy.
Wardy. Is that his name, Wardy?
Yeah.
You think when Archimedes' principle?
Okay, so hang on. Wardy, can you define what you mean when you say gravity, please?
Gravity is essentially, in its shortest form, described as mass attracting mass.
No, it isn't.
Mass doesn't attract mass.
That's wrong. 100 years out of date.
Well, it's observably true. Mass does. It
isn't observably true.
Wardy.
Mass does not attract mass.
Hold on, Anthony. Hold on, Anthony. Wardy, you are wrong. Current definition of gravity is the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time. Current meaning what you've described, mass attracting mass, which would be Cavendish / Newtonian / Reverend John Mitchell / who's the other one? CV Boys gravity. Yeah, mass attracting mass. That's outdated by 100 years.
The attraction between two masses.
There isn't
is
any.
apparent in
Listen
the
again.
bending
I'll say it a third
space-time.
time. Try not to whistle past what I say. Try to listen to the words I say, comprehend their meaning, and then acknowledge them. Mass does not attract mass. Gravity is currently defined as the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time. The two are very different. They aren't even in the same geometry. Mass isn't attracting mass, and gravity is not described as such. It's described, as I've just described it, as the bending of space-time. Do you understand?
I completely accept, Nathan, that is your understanding of it, but it's not.
That is not my understanding. That is the current pseudoscience from heliocentric priests. Not my understanding. Your priests, not mine, definition of the pseudoscience that is currently taught to children. Not mass attracting mass, my friend. You are incorrect.
Okay, so explain Cavendish's experiment.
Why?
With
Sorry,
density
isn't
and
this
buoyancy.
your explanation for gravity? You were asked to define gravity, you failed miserably, and described something 100 years out of date, and we've corrected you. Would you like to continue, Anthony, given that he's been corrected about his mistake?
Right, so now we know what gravity is per current science.
Oh, I'm sorry, Anthony. It seems he's got some objection to this. Sorry, what's your objection? Man who was wrong about what gravity is?
My objection is that density and buoyancy don't explain why Cavendish's experiment works the way it does.
Sorry, Cavendish's
Wasn't an experiment.
I'll say it a fourth time. I included his name. I said Cavendish / Newtonian / CV Boys / Reverend John Mitchell gravity. That would be mass attracting mass is 100 years outdated by the concept of bending space-time. That is now the fourth time I have said this to you. Do not ask me to explain a 100-year outdated non-experiment, please. Just acknowledge that mass does not attract mass, and that is not the current explanation for your definition of gravity, which was not given.
And I've told you that whilst I accept your description, I don't agree with it. And I believe that you've got the
That's not his description. That is your current science, sir.
Yeah, I said that twice. That would be Einstein's reification of a conceptual medium bending, not mine. You just don't know that. You think it's mass attracting mass. Please don't correct me on what you think is my rhetoric when it's your rhetoric that you don't understand from your priests.
You're parroting the wrong pseudoscience, in other words.
Yeah, you're parroting the wrong pseudoscience, my friend. Now, Anthony's asked you what your explanation is for gas being held next to a vacuum, and your explanation is 100 years out of date.
Well, that's another conspiracy theorist point of view, is that in the globe Earth model, there is no such thing as...
You're wrong, man. You're wrong. You're just wrong. They've told you already. Mainstream science says that gravity is not a force. The same people who gave you the gravity as a force has said it's not one now. Do you understand that? Nobody here on this panel created this bullshit. This is your current mainstream science.
He said globe Earth model. Can he show us that model? Where is he? Is he in Discord?
Different.
Are you in Discord?
Yeah, he's in Discord.
Can you please, because you said globe Earth model, can you please show us that?
You want me to show you the model?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Because we know that you don't
the
understand
model
what
is
gravity
what
is,
university
but you're
refers
referencing
to
a
as
model.
Mainstream science,
Hold on, Anthony.
essentially.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You guys have
show us the
universally
model.
agreed in here that you disagree with mainstream science. Okay, great. So if things like, for example, if
No. That's not correct.
Show us the model right now.
Show me where it's been superseded.
Sorry.
Show us the model.
You mentioned a model. Now one of the other panelists is asking you to show us the model that you referred to. Do you remember referring to the globe Earth model?
The model is the body.
Yeah,
of
that model.
mainstream science
Yes, that
that's
model.
currently
That model,
accepted
yes.
and
So you do remember referring to it. But I just needed a yes. Can you now show us that which you have referred to as the globe Earth model, please?
Post it in
It's a
live stream. I'm
nonsensical
sitting here
question,
waiting.
and you know it, Nathan.
Oh my god.
Sorry, did you hear the question? Can you show us, is the question. The thing that you're being asked to show is that which you have referred to as the globe Earth model. Did you hear me? It's the third time it's been said.
The question is a nonsensical question, and you know it. I cannot show you it.
Why not?
Right.
Why not?
Why not?
So it's a concession. That's a concession.
Well, no.
Right,
I want to know why not.
Yeah, I want to know too.
You're asking
Yeah, you
us
appeal
to show
to it.
you the entire body of mainstream science as
Oh,
a thing.
the
Body of science.
Body of science, yeah.
Been a
Sorry.
while.
Yeah, I think it was summed up by QE a moment ago. You've appealed to this globe Earth model, and when asked to produce that which you have appealed to, you've said you can't produce it.
Well, I can't show you the whole body of science, but I can refer to specific
No.
examples, which is when we were talking about example Cavendish,
Don't
which you said is
represent
absolutely-
what I've said with different words. I'm going to interrupt you, my friend. I haven't asked you to show me the whole body of science. I asked you to show me that which you referred to. I've said it 3 times now in this exact order. That which you referred to as, quote, the globe Earth model. Not the whole body of science, which is what you've just said I've asked you to show you. Stop talking through me. You've misrepresented what I've asked you. Don't just talk through me while I correct you. No, we're not asking for the whole body of science. Are you deaf? We're asking you to show the globe Earth model. You've said you can't. Now we want to know why.
Okay, show me the flat Earth model.
No, we didn't appeal to some flat Earth model. You did. The globe Earth model, in quotes, is what you appealed to. Don't straw man us. We haven't appealed to anything. You have. Now we're asking you why you can't show us.
Hang on a minute. You've told me that Cavendish and Einstein are all wrong, and that there is now some new mainstream version of gravity that has been superseded.
Sorry, you didn't even listen. No. The current nonsense pseudo... I'm starting to explain again where you are incorrect and cannot listen. As I've explained that, what was it, 4 times? No, we haven't said Einstein and Newton are being replaced or superseded by some new science. No, the current science taught to children, the current pseudo-science, just so stories with absolutely no scientific validity about pseudo-Riemannian four-space geometry and the bending of space-time is Einsteinian. It replaced the nonsense of Cavendish which you appealed to. That was about 100 years ago. So you are wrong in your assertions about the current science, which is also nonsense, pseudoscience based on the reification of Einsteinian concepts. Now, we still haven't had the globe Earth model you appealed to. We've disassembled this nonsense that you are incorrect about gravity 4 or 5 times. Then you appealed to a model. Then you said you couldn't show it us. Now we still haven't found out why.
Einsteinian version of gravity is the same as the Newtonian version. It's just been extended to include...
It isn't.
Hold on.
It isn't.
Let him make his
false.
statement. Let him make his statement. Let him make his absolute nonsense statement so I can rip it to shreds. So they're the same, are they? What are the 2 geometries for Euclidean and pseudo-Riemannian? How do they work?
Nathan, if you're just going to use big words that you don't understand, you're not...
Oh, I'm asking you. Oh, what do they don't understand? What do they mean then? What were those 2 words I used? Repeat them.
If I correct you, you're going to come up with some straw man.
Just repeat the words. Simply chocolate. Simply repeat the name of the 2 geometries which you say are the same. The fact that there's 2 geometries disproves that fact that you have claimed to be a fact, by the way. But just name them. I only said them 30 seconds ago. Just repeat them.
Hello?
He heard the question. He just doesn't know what the 2 geometries are. He's claiming they're the same. He doesn't even know their names after they've been said. The big words, my friend. The big words you said I don't understand. It seems that not only do you not understand them, you can't even repeat them. Repeat the words I said a minute ago that you said I didn't understand, my friend. I just point out that you are being humiliated. What's your name again? Let's dedicate it to air, this fucktard's name.
I think it's Farmer's
He's left,
Boy.
by the way, just to let you know.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I would have left too, given how humiliating that was.
Has he gone?
Yeah, of course. He's being absolutely humiliated with his assertions and his ad hom on me that I don't understand the words I use and he couldn't even repeat.
I had this with Ranty's channel the other night. I had a guy.
He's back now.
I've seen his name loads. I've never seen him on a Hangout before.
He's back.
He's back.
Oh, he's back.
Excellent. What were the two geometries that were named about a minute and a half ago that you said I didn't understand?
I'm going to end it there because I'm not going to try and have a conversation with you that's ultimately going to end up in you being wrong, coming up with some straw man like you did last time, and then blocking me.
You're such a weasel.
4 more hours. 4 hours. Right, so
Four more hours.
4 more hours of this fundy telling me that I don't understand the words I use. I'm asking him to repeat the words which he claims I don't understand. All I'm asking for is a repetition of the two words, the two geometries which he says are the same. I'll just say it again, that there's two. Not the same, because there's two of them, but he's saying they are, and I want to know what those two geometries are. I've said them, I want him to repeat them.
Again, it's a nonsensical question.
What, repeat what I've said? Repeat two words I've used. That's a nonsensical question, is it? To test your ability to listen and repeat. Yeah, what this demonstrates is your ability to listen and repeat. Yeah, this is like, what, grade 1 level? This is beyond retarded. If you can't even listen to the words I've used, you've then claimed I don't understand them, and then repeat them. That's your failure we're demonstrating right now. And I don't mind you telling me how stupid I am and that it'll end in an argument where I'm wrong, with you failing to repeat the two geometries for 4 hours. I'll do that, because it demonstrates admirably what a complete moron you are.
I'll concede this, okay? I'm not a physicist.
Concede what?
I don't always know
Concede
the
what?
scientific terms.
Concede what? You've just told me I don't understand the two geometries you've said are the same. So are you conceding that the two geometries you can't now repeat aren't the same? Given that there's two of them.
You're going to sit here and pseudo-speak about stuff all...
Pseudo-speak? Yeah, we're talking about pseudo-Riemannian force space. That's correct, pseudo-speak, yeah. Einsteinian speak is pseudo-speak, the geometry pseudo. That's right, pseudo-Riemannian force space. What are the 4 dimensions in pseudo-Riemannian force space?
X, Y, Z, and T, I would have thought.
And what about in Euclidean?
Well, Euclidean's only about dimensions, so in physical space, so X, Y, and Z.
Right. Okay. And how do you hold on. And how do you translate one into the other?
What do you mean, how do you translate? X, Y, and Z are directly translatable, and T isn't taken into account in what. So you
know the difference between non-linear and linear equations?
So they're not the same then? One's got T, one hasn't. So they're fundamentally different then.
One's an
so they are
of the other.
I'm talking, my friend. So you concede they are fundamentally different then?
No, they're not.
So explain how you can translate one into the other. As you have claimed, they are the same. Even though already we've got one with a different value, an extra value, this T value. So they're not the same already, but you tell me how they are.
One refers to a point in time. The other one refers to a reference point in time that you can then... I told you, I'm not very good at explaining myself. You've got X, Y, Z in one, which explains a position in 3-dimensional space. And if you have X, Y, Z plus T, you're having a position in 3-dimensional space at this point in time.
And are those two things the same or different?
They are one and the same from the point of view of the first. Yes.
That's friggin' hogwash, man.
Explain that.
Hold on a second. I want him to translate it. We're in live stream. I want him to take Einstein's field equations, make sure you pick the right one of the 10, and then I want you to show how it reduces to Newtonian mechanics. or Newtonian universal law of gravitation right here in live stream right now.
It doesn't. He's just incorrect.
No, but he said that they were the same, so they must.
No, he's saying they're the same, Anthony. He is fundamentally wrong. He doesn't know it
but
yet.
I want to see him do it.
He can't do it. The two aren't the same. They aren't translatable. You can't.
Yeah, but Nathan, he doesn't know that yet. I know that. You know that, but he doesn't know it. But he said it.
To Newtonian mechanics, it cannot be done. It is impossible. Rumpus asserted it to you, and you didn't challenge him on it, Anthony.
I didn't get a chance though. He said about 15 things in that period.
That's true. But this gentleman is wrong.
So let's have him do it.
Yeah, let's have him do it. He said it that they were the same. Let's see him do it.
Explain really basic shit.
Let's see you do it. Do it right here in live stream right now.
I would rather a physicist did it because they would do it correctly.
But you're making the assertion. Why are you putting this off on a physicist? You made the assertion. What, you're going to go and get your mommy to help you out because you've made an assertion you can't back? No. Let's not appeal to somebody else. You back up what you have claimed. You have claimed this. Physicists wouldn't claim this because they're not fucking retarded.
I have an A level in physics. From
That's fascinating. You should understand then, or appreciate at some fundamental level, that length, breadth, depth and time is not the same as length, breadth and depth. That they're fundamentally different. But you seem to think they're the same, making you retarded.
No,
why can't you concede this point?
It's not what I said.
He can't concede anything.
That is what you said. You said they were the same.
He made a number of baseless assertions here that he hasn't supported yet. So there's no difference between him and your average village idiot. We can go talk to your average village idiot on the street corner, and he can't support anything that he says. So how is that different from you?
Isn't. He can't support anything. He hasn't supported anything. He puts it back on us, challenges us when we ask him to back his nonsense assertions about pseudo-Riemannian 4-space being translatable into Euclidean 3-space, which it isn't. He's just wrong. Same about gravity being force, or the attraction between masses. Again, he's just wrong. He's 100 years out of date.
There's no way that I can explain it in terms that you would accept, whether I'm right or wrong.
Don't try to define what we accept.
Yeah, it's all right. You used one word. You said pseudo. What does pseudo mean?
I didn't use that word. You used.
Yeah, you did. You said you're going to talk about your pseudo. That's what you said. You seem to have a memory problem. You seem to have a memory problem.
No.
When this goes out as a recording, what I tend to do when I'm talking, my friend, when fundies like you deny something they've said only minutes earlier, I remember. And then when it gets broadcast, I put in quotes what you've said before I point out later that you have said it. Because I've got quite a good memory. And you have used the word pseudo. You put it on me as an accusation of my words being pseudo. So you've definitely used that word. I don't have a crap memory. So given that you have used that word, do you know what that word means?
Yes, during this conversation, I used the term pseudo.
What does it mean?
It means like everything else to do with flat Earth, fake.
Oh, I wasn't referring to flat Earth. What I was going to refer to, let's see if I get rumpused. What I was going to refer to is Einstein's geometry for space-time. Do you know what that's called? It's been mentioned several times. Sorry, Nathan,
I thought you were doing your usual.
So that would be pseudo-Riemannian 4-space. Pseudo. Like everything about flat Earth, you say. What, fake? Well, Einstein's geometry for this space-time you say is the same as Euclidean. Oh, he's going to rumpus me. Well, I make my point about how Einsteinian geometry's got pseudo at the front of the name of it. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it is interesting how you misinterpret words all the time.
No, it's pseudo-Riemannian 4-space, and I haven't interpreted that anyway. I've asked you to interpret that word. I haven't interpreted anything yet. I've just named the geometry that Einstein coined for space-time, that would be pseudo-Riemannian for space. Isn't that interesting, is all I
understand
ask.
the context in which that was used?
And what's the context of pseudo in this instance, my friend?
It was talking about relativity and relative space-time.
And what's the pseudo-reference mean, my friend?
It doesn't mean what you think it means.
I haven't said anything about what I think it means. I've asked you who've used that word to define it, and you've said it means everything to do with flat Earth. That would be wrong. You don't understand the definition of the word you use, it seems, because you've defined it incorrectly. Maybe you'd like to define it correctly, given that you've used it.
Given that there is more than one interpretation of the word pseudo, because the pseudo is not a word on its own, it's a prefix to other things. There are many contexts in which it can be used, in which case it can mean different things.
And what are those things?
Just like theory means something different in science to when it's used typically by...
That's fascinating.
Right, hang on.
How interesting.
I want to challenge Nathan. I want to raise a challenge to what you just said. He said that pseudo is not a word in its own right. He said it's a prefix to other words. Do you agree that's what you just said?
Yeah, he said say that. I didn't challenge it. I thought he was correct,
Usually,
actually.
yes. I will now be corrected on this. I'll accept that.
Excellent. So let's have the correction. So for the benefit of everybody watching, you said that it was a prefix. Nathan, have you got it on screen for me?
I do.
I hope he says yes.
Yes.
So the definition of pseudo, it is an adjective. It's an informal adjective. It's not genuine, spurious, or sham. It is not a prefix. It is a word. It's an adjective. So you consider yourself corrected.
So what does it mean?
It means not genuine, spurious, or sham. It's not a prefix. It's an adjective.
It's a sham.
We should call it sham for us.
Yeah, so it's like it's like sham for space.
Yeah.
Like not real for space.
Spurious for space.
Spurious, fake for space, my friend. It's an interesting definition, that pseudo word, isn't it,
Talking
Anthony?
about like quantum level physics. These are...
No, quantum level physics
that's
would be
just my game.
Would be validated by scientific experimentation.
Let's talk about it.
No, hang on. Let's not jump from pseudo. We're stuck on pseudo, sham. So how is I always say pseudo-Romanian, as in like the nationality. I just can't get the correct pronunciation. But how does pseudo-Romanian for space...
Pseudo-Romanian.
Sham Romanian.
Romanian.
Yeah, how does pseudo-Romanian for space even exist if it's pseudo-Romanian?
Say for space.
I just can't get that word out.
Okay, I'm a programmer and I write pseudo code sometimes when I'm trying to explain problems to people. It's the same context as that. It doesn't mean that...
No, not in the context of computer programming. Pseudo in the context of fake or not real. That's the context.
I'm trying to use programming terms. Pseudo code does not do anything. The code is just a logical thing to think about. It does not do anything at all. It's fake code. It's just not real. Can you do anything with pseudo code?
Like sham code?
As a means to explain
like fake code
that you're having.
Einstein's pseudo world, pseudoscience.
Pseudo for space. Say pseudo for space.
Pseudo for space. So let's go back to the point.
Which one?
Where's the gravity?
Which point, Anthony?
Hold on.
Gravity. So the initial
the point was on gravity.
Was how do you have gravity holding gas pressure next to a vacuum? And then we asked for a definition of what gravity was, and we've got to the point where we've summarised it as pseudo. So that's not holding it. Obviously, it's pseudo.
There's nothing about a globe Earth that says you have gas pressure next to a vacuum.
Oh yeah, that's exactly
blue marble in space, moron. Come on, think about it.
You don't
know those pictures from space that you rely on that show a blue marble existing in the vacuum of space, and there's that little hum around that blue marble. That little hum is what we're asking. How is that possible that exists?
It's a pressure gradient that.
Yeah. How does it exist without a container? Come on.
Hey Nathan, it's pressure gradient, man. These parameters, right?
It's
That's all they do.
Yeah, delta X and X.
Unbelievable. You haven't been keeping up to date with the flat Earth debate, son.
It's about 100 years out of date.
I just don't keep up to date with Nathan's rubbish because he's
just about anything, right?
Yeah, you should,
yeah, we can
mate.
tell you don't keep up. So,
it's all right.
right, on your model, we have a ball Earth that we call the blue marble, pictures from space, and that exists in the vacuum of space, but it's got a gas pressure with it with no container. Can you explain to me how that's possible, please?
Yeah. The outer layer of the atmosphere has effectively no pressure, just like the vacuum of space.
Where does that pressure come from in the first place?
He's just said the outer layer of gas has no pressure.
Yeah, where does that pressure, that low pressure, where does that come from in the first place without a container, please?
Hold on, Anthony. Just listen to the words I say. He's just said the outer layer doesn't have any pressure.
No, he said it's just above low pressure. But where does that pressure come from in the first place,
hold on,
please?
If it's just hold on, we've got a contradiction then. If it's just above no pressure, then it's pressure, isn't it, my friend?
So hang on, you cut me off and then you misquote me. Let me start again.
No worries. Go ahead.
The outermost layer of the atmosphere has effectively zero pressure. The atmosphere is well observed, well known to be a pressure gradient from its outermost layer down to ground level. Ground level.
So how do you have the pressure gradient without containment in the first place, please?
You don't. That's what
right.
gravity is doing.
Right.
It's generating
gravity.
that pressure gradient.
No, gravity. We covered this. You seem to be circled.
No, he didn't say gravity. He said you don't.
He just did say
He
gravity.
just did.
Conceded.
He did say gravity.
He just did.
Oh.
So
I heard him say you don't.
If you guys want to explain this as density buoyancy, then your density buoyancy.
We're not. That's not what
No,
we're
that's
saying.
a different argument. No. So this argument's about the gas, which is at pressure, and it wants to expand in all directions to fill the volume that it has available to it. And we're asking, given those natural laws, how can you have a blue marble fantasy where you've got gas next to a massive space and not filling it?
Hey, Wardy.
Over.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Brian.
Hello, hey, Wardy.
We do.
Hey, Truth Lover is in the live stream. And he was the one.
Hold up.
posted it.
There's a question put to him. Hold up, Brian.
Yeah.
There's a question put to who is this gentleman? Is this Farmer's Boy?
I think it is, yeah.
There's a question put
Hey,
to
Wardy,
Farmer's Boy that Nathan just asked him. Hold on. Farmer's Boy, hello.
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, gas which wants to expand in all directions to fill the volume it has available to it. Why is it that you have a reification of a sphere with gas attached to the outside next to a massive space that it's not filling, violating several laws of nature? How is that possible?
The gas does expand in all directions.
Oh, well, then it would fill the available volume. That would be space. And we'd have no gas here.
That's 3.58 times 10 to the 80th cubic meters of space, by the way.
That would be the volume that it can fill.
Right, stop interrupting him. Let him answer.
Okay. The gravity explains the containment problem that you guys have. The pressure gradient from ground level up is commonly accepted as being a degrading gradient. The pressure drops the higher you go. Do you guys accept that much?
Yeah.
What's gravity?
Yeah, you said gravity again.
Define gravity.
Okay, let me rephrase without the term gravity in there. Do you accept that from the ground level, at, say, sea level, at zero height, all the way up to the outer reaches of as high as we can go, there's a pressure gradient that goes from 14.6 psi up to...
allow me, gents. Yes,
You're
we do.
interrupting him, Anthony. Anthony.
Stop interrupting,
Anthony. Can you stop interrupting him?
He asked a question.
I didn't hear the end of it.
Right, the question he asked was, do we accept there's a pressure gradient? And the answer is, yes, of course we do.
PSI
the question I want to ask you back is, how does that pressure gradient even exist?
Qualified, Anthony. Anthony, he hasn't qualified it from zero, i.e. sea level, and then he didn't complete his statement. Go ahead, Farmer's Boy.
I'm just trying to find some common ground between yourselves and my understanding of things. So at ground level, at sea level, should we say? Okay, I'm stood on the ground at sea level. It's commonly accepted that there is an ambient atmospheric pressure of 14.6 psi. Would you guys accept that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. If I go up to, say, the top of Mount Everest, okay, that's not 14.6 psi. It's considerably lower. Do you accept that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so by definition, the higher I go, the lower the pressure is. Now,
Yes.
if you keep following that bell curve, you're going to end up with 0 psi.
No, you won't.
Yeah, but you missed the point.
No, that would violate a law of nature. Because
No, hang on.
Why would that
How do we
violate a law
have
of
pressure gradients in the first place without containment, please?
Yeah, sorry. His extrapolation that it goes to 0 is false. And the reason it's false is because it violates the second law of thermodynamics.
Okay, so your argument is that there can't possibly be a point at which the pressure is 0 due to thermodynamics.
No, that's not the argument. The argument is that you have the pressure in the first
I was trying to have the
place.
argument, but you're not letting me, Anthony, for some reason. I don't know why.
Because he's missing the point.
No, not really. If the sky
He
was
is.
a vacuum...
Where does the pressure come from
Anthony,
in the
why are you
first
doing
place?
this? I'm trying to address this point. He's saying the world has a little gradient that goes up to Everest, and if you were looking at the ball, side on, at the top, you've got 0. And then it's basically 0 for the ever-increasing, infinite, expanding vacuum of space. Now that's unfortunate, because we have a natural law with entropy that would want to fill that space. The gas would want to expand into that space. So no, him saying that it dissipates to 0 violates a law of nature.
Yeah, he's missing the rate, Nathan. It should be done instantly according to that law.
I'm going to say that gravity contradicts that from happening.
Sorry, pseudo. Hello? Didn't we cover this earlier? Pseudo? What does pseudo mean again? Is it fake? Is it not real? Is it a sham?
Is a real
Sorry, mate. We covered this. Try not to interrupt me. We covered this. Not real, sham, fake. Those were all the meanings of pseudo. And the geometry is pseudo, my friend. When you I asked you not to talk through me, my friend. I'm pointing out for the 3rd time that we have covered this. When you assert that something pseudo can overcome a natural law, we're going to say a sham doesn't trump a natural law. Okay?
So the laws of entropy, the laws of thermodynamics, they're natural laws, but gravity isn't.
No, gravity is pseudo.
Yes,
sham,
you're correct.
Fake. That's the 4th time in the last 30 seconds I have said that to you.
And gravity's not a law.
Is this proving troublesome for you to process cognitively?
Yeah,
so there's the law of gravitation, and then there's the theory of relativity, which includes gravity.
Oh, right. The law of gravitation? Would that be something outdated by 100 years by any chance? Superseded by...
And let's just remember...
Anthony won't let him go. Thanks, Nathan. That was nice. I appreciate it.
It's 100 years out of date, my friend. We've covered that as well. It seems you have a comprehension issue.
But take a step back, right? We talked about the pressure gradient, which
Hold on.
you guys accept is a real thing.
Hold on. He's going to take a step back.
I'm taking a step back. There we go. I'm one step further back.
We're one step back. Can you show us the globe Earth model, please?
No. Go on. Tell us about your 100-year out-of-date gravity.
Can you show me an example of pressure in a container that is a gradient?
Yes.
Yeah,
you can go to
dickhead,
Hillbilly
the
Blue
tower
Balls.
with the cherry in it.
You can go to Hillbilly Blue Balls, otherwise known as Blue Marble Science, or Good Times for All, where they show a gas pressure gradient in the necessary antecedent, the container.
Correction, Hillbilly Blue Balls, the redneck retard. Thanks.
Have you seen that demonstration by any chance, Farmer's Boy?
It's a video that was entitled Gas Pressure Without a Container. and he did gas pressure but in a container, and he thought that that wasn't a container, a bit like you, that thinks that you can have gas pressure in the atmosphere without a container.
When using 100-year out-of-date force.
Does he want to scientifically validate gravity? Would he like to do that?
I just don't understand why we're not killing him here with the instantaneous transfer of gas pressure into the vacuum of space instantaneously, like when Conspiracy Cats popped the balloon and he said without the container, without the balloon, there is no pressure. That's the bit that kills him. Why can't we kill him? Are we just playing with him like a killer whale kills with a seal pup before he kills it?
Because there is a container.
There has to be a container, moron. We have gas pressure. You can't have gas pressure without containment. It's like we've said all the way through. Why do you think that you can have a gas pressure without containment, please?
I have not said that.
Yeah, but you need to have that belief if you believe that we live on a sphere in the middle of a vacuum.
We're not saying you've said that.
Can I reaffirm my position?
Yes.
Yes, please do.
We do not have gas pressure without a container anywhere.
Correct.
In any form of blue marble or globe model or globe science or pseudoscience or whatever you want to call it that I'm aware of. We do have in observable reality, which you guys accept, a pressure gradient in the real world.
You can't have the pressure gradient without the fucking container, you moron.
Anthony, just let him get to the end of his position. You've said he can reaffirm his position. Just let him.
Right. The only thing that I'm stating here is that something is causing a pressure gradient. Something is pulling matter towards the Earth.
No, it's not.
And that thing is the thing that science calls gravity. Now, whether or not you accept
fallacy,
the definition
science
of gravity
doesn't say
is a different
things.
matter.
Reification fallacy, science doesn't say anything. It doesn't have lips, vocal cords, or lungs. You're a moron. And do you want to scientifically validate that gravity, please?
Well, she said that.
I just want to know why he thinks that gravity is a force. It's fucking stupid. Why do you think gravity is pulling anything down when you know that the current science says it's not a force? Are you just being dishonest?
Well, I'm not. It's commonly and observably true that mass attracts.
It isn't. It's not your current science. It's not a force. Even if Farmer's Boy wants to think of it as a force, it's not a fucking force.
Okay, so this is the 5th time we've covered this, Farmer's Boy. You are 100 years out of date with your rhetoric. Hasn't that sunk in? Mass not attracting mass? Cavendish out of date? New rhetoric, Einsteinian rhetoric, bending of space-time? Any of this familiar? Does none of this sound familiar to you? I'm surprised, given that you're in this argument.
Are we even sure this is the same guy? Because the circles that guy runs in, he should know this by now, right?
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, we're of like minds. I'm saying I'm surprised you don't know this.
Yeah.
No, why I'm not surprised. He's got people like Rumpus misleading him. You're misled by people like Rumpus, who just lies to you, tells you that it's a force when it isn't. Is that how you're taking your lead from, Farmer's Boy? People like Rumpus.
I honestly can't say I've ever spoken to Rumpus directly.
Liar. You're a fucking liar.
Nah, I don't think it's the same guy. I don't think it's that Farmer's guy.
Are you Farmer's Boy in disguise?
I don't think it's him.
I don't care.
No, it's not.
All I'm saying is that he has the same.
I don't believe it.
He has the same ideas as you, that it's a force when it isn't. He has to leave out like specific parts of citations in order to make those claims, though. He has to literally deceive his audience to make such claims. You appreciate that, right? And you're doing the same thing because you're 100 years out of date. It's not mass attracting
Well, and
mass.
would they apply this logic to any other force? Like with magnetism, would you say we can treat it as a force? You know what I mean? You're only applying
that is a
this
force.
logic to gravity.
Is magnetism not a force then?
I was going to say not when you're comparing it to actual forces.
We're not talking about magnetism. We're talking about gravity.
They won't do this with any other force because they could prove the other forces.
Right.
Gravity is the one they
That's what
can't
I'm saying.
prove, so they have to just assert it with nonsense.
Right, we're not talking about magnetism. We're talking about gravity. So stay on topic. Can you scientifically validate gravity, the non-Farmer's Boy?
See, the problem that you guys have is that gravity isn't fully understood. We don't know the cause
It doesn't exist, dickhead. You can't prove it.
That's the
You're a
problem
fucking
you
moron.
guys have. That's
Hold on.
not the problem we have. That's the problem you guys have.
Don't let the moment pass. Hold on. You said we don't know the cause. Can you just say a quick yes, as that's what you just asserted 20 seconds ago?
Yes.
What does science elucidate?
Sorry, you cut out then. What?
No worries, I'll repeat it. What does science elucidate?
So as far as I'm aware, and I'm not completely up to date with the absolute latest, the most current discovery is around this Higgs boson thing.
That's not what he asked.
It's supposed to be theorized as somewhat to be the cause of gravity, but gravity is not fully understood. Magnetism is. So we can
Sorry.
is a force.
Sorry. My question, I'll repeat. What does science elucidate?
What does the
science
method mission?
What does science do? Elucidate means do.
What's its purpose?
Its purpose?
The purpose of science is elucidation of what?
The word science originally came from the Latin meaning, to gather knowledge, from what I understand.
I didn't ask what science meant. I meant what I asked specifically. What does it elucidate? What is its purpose?
The scientific method.
Well, science doesn't do
its
anything.
mission? Primary mission, please.
So the primary mission of scientists is to learn, to gain knowledge.
What does science do? It's got a principal activity. It does what?
Science doesn't do anything. It's a
Yeah, it does.
description of
It
a
does.
field.
We're asking you what it does. Not what it doesn't do. Not the meaning of the word. What the purpose of the method is.
We're back to the scientific method, which is not a thing. Yeah, okay.
No, we're back to what does science do?
It's not a thing.
Sorry, can everybody else stop getting triggered while I talk to this guy?
Yes, go ahead.
What's the purpose? We use this word science. The process of science is the scientific method. And I'm asking, what's the purpose of it?
Sure, there are a set of principles that are described as the scientific method.
No.
Gathering and
what's its purpose? Not principles. Purpose. What does it do?
Anthony, let Nathan go ahead.
Science doesn't do anything. It's a word.
It does, dickhead. It does.
Bro, when a
If you don't know,
scientist
just say.
is conducting the scientific method, what is he trying to do?
What am
It's
I
a
trying to
really
achieve?
simple question, man.
If I'm performing
That's
that
a
method,
different question.
what's my outcome? What am I trying to achieve when I do science?
If a scientist is following the scientific method, he is trying to acquire new knowledge.
Of what?
No, he's not.
Anthony, please.
Anthony, hold on for a second.
What knowledge of what specifically in this instance, or any instance where that method is
testing
applied?
Hypothesis.
And what does a hypothesis do?
You're testing hypothesis based on
No,
observations.
no. What does the hypothesis do? What does it establish?
It establishes a theory in principle.
No,
that
it
you then
doesn't.
test
That's
to find
incorrect.
whether or not it's
Theories come after. Wrong. So I'll ask again. What does a hypothesis
I'm not
do?
using the
You are
scientific
wrong.
term.
It does not establish a theory. You are wrong. You want me to tell you what
A
it does do, or are you going to continually talk over me? Incorrect person. That is not what it does. It does not establish a theory. Do you not know what a hypothesis does?
May I?
I don't think he does. Just say. If you don't know, just say.
A hypothesis is the foundation that you're testing.
What's it trying to achieve?
I've come
That's
up
wrong
with an
also.
idea.
No, that's wrong. The testing is the experimentation. That's not a hypothesis. That's twice you've been wrong.
Well, the experimentation is...
I'm not asking about the experimentation. Are you deaf? Hypothesis. What does it establish?
It established... What?
He doesn't know. Just say you don't know.
You're repeating the same question over
Yes,
and over
because I
again.
haven't had an
Every
answer
time I
from
try to
you.
answer,
I've
cut
had an
me off.
answer that's theory. Wrong. I've had an answer that it's experiment. Wrong. Now I'm asking what you establish with the hypothesis, and you're going, what? Because you don't know. You've had Anthony tell you to just concede you don't know, but you don't seem to be capable of doing so.
You're asking nonsensical questions.
You just don't know the answer!
No, it's not that I don't... Well, okay, I don't know the answer to a nonsensical question, yes.
It's not a nonsensical question. What does a hypothesis establish is absolutely sensical. You just don't know the answer, correct?
I feel like you're triggered right now.
I'm pissed off that a fundy zealot who has asserted to me that I don't know what I'm talking about on more than one occasion during this conversation. Every time I get you to define certain things, you haven't got the vaguest clue. Now we're at the point where I'm asking you to define a hypothesis. The reason is because initially during this conversation, you quite clearly stated that they don't know the cause of gravity. Now we're at the stage where this little merry train wreck that we're on with you comes to its conclusion. But it can only come to the conclusion if you concede that you don't know what a hypothesis is, or you tell me what it does.
It was also because he said science doesn't do anything.
Nathan. You're trying to wordplay your way out of this, and it doesn't work
No.
like that.
No.
No. You said science doesn't do anything. We say it does. We know what science does. You don't seem to know. So why do you keep saying science doesn't do anything? And then when there is a clear definition on the table for what science does, and it's to do with the word hypothesis, which you could have Googled by now, you still haven't come up with the right answer. So we'll ask you again, what does science do in the context of a hypothesis?
You're talking about the scientific method, right? Not science.
No, what does science do in the context of a hypothesis? It does something positive. It doesn't fail to do something. It does something positive. What is that positive thing it does?
Or just say I don't know.
Science is literally a word to describe a
Not
field.
science. Hypothesis.
It's right.
Just say
and the hypothesis is just a theory.
try and repeat after me. I don't know.
He said a hypothesis is just a theory. Oh my god.
He said it's a theory. That's wrong. I've covered that. It's not a theory. That comes afterwards.
Assuming
I qualified.
I'm not using wordplay that you
You're
guys
talking
use
through me,
wordplay.
my friend.
The word theory.
Ignorant person.
I'm using it in
Ignorant
the
person.
general sense of the
Ignorant
definition.
fundy globe head. You seem to be talking through me. You've said theory, and for the third time I'm going to correct you. The theory stage comes after the experimentation stage. And the experimentation stage comes after formulation of hypotheses. So I'm asking you what a hypothesis does, and I'd either want to hear, I don't know, because you don't, or tell me what a hypothesis does. Simple.
Your problem is you've got the scientific method wrong. It's not that clear cut, and it's not that.
You haven't defined a hypothesis yet. Clear cut? Clear cut? You haven't even defined it yet. What about clear cut? You haven't told us what it is yet. We're not defining it, we're asking you to. Clear cut, nobody's defined it yet, and we're asking you to do the defining.
Right, but you're throwing a definition at me. And
I haven't thrown anything at you, I'm asking you to define it.
You've just told me the order of certain steps in what you deem to be the scientific method, and I'm saying I don't agree with that.
Sorry,
He's asking you what a hypothesis is. He's asked you 20 times. What is a hypothesis?
Well, it's essentially an idea.
No, it's not.
I theorize that.
No,
X must be
for the
true
fourth
when
time.
Y conditions
Not
are met.
theory. Are you dumb? Are you dumb? Are you literally?
Yep.
Have you had to have special training for your handicap?
No, he's a pretender clown.
I'm asking you a simple question.
General science.
Yeah, I'm asking you a simple question. What's a hypothesis?
The problem that you guys have got is
Not the problem about what I've got. What's a hypothesis? Don't tell me about my problems. Tell me what a hypothesis is. You complete clown.
I have already told you that.
No,
on
you
multiple
haven't.
occasions.
You're wrong. You've told us that it's an experiment, and you've told us that it's theory, and you are wrong on both counts. What's a hypothesis, my friend?
You tell me then, because you clearly know better.
I'll tell you. if you concede that you don't know?
There is not one definition, so
Yes,
I'll
there is.
concede that I don't know
You
your
just
definition.
don't know what it is.
Even if you're saying it has more than one definition, you haven't given us one of them yet.
So all you need to say is those three magic words. I don't know. Really easy.
I don't know what your definition is. That's
No,
correct.
the definition.
There isn't a single definition. This is your problem.
I want to know
yes,
what.
there is.
I'm not interested necessarily in the definition. I just want to know the purpose. What does it do?
Okay, where did you get your definition from?
I haven't
Don't
given
read
one.
that.
I'm asking you. That's the point here. There's a reason. I've told you the reason. The reason specifically is because you stated at the beginning of this conversation that they have not established the cause of gravity. That's why I'm asking what a hypothesis does. If you knew what it did, by my tone and the words I put emphasis on, you'd be able to parrot back in a heartbeat what a hypothesis does. Because I've given you little clues that will let the audience know that you haven't got the vaguest clue.
You want me to say that a hypothesis establishes the cause of something, but that's
No, it
not
doesn't.
true.
That's wrong. It doesn't establish the cause. That's incorrect. It establishes your...
Well, you're clearly.
I see. You're wrong again, but you're going to talk through the actual... You're going to talk through the actual explanation of what it is, even though you're incorrect. You've just told me it establishes the cause. No. That would be the potential... Oh, he's going to talk through me again. This fuckwit fundy who hasn't got a clue and has been wrong on 3 counts is now going to prevent me, the one who knows what a hypothesis is, from talking by talking through me every time I attempt to define what a hypothesis is trying to achieve. So, you have claimed that it's not only a theory, not only an experiment, but now you're saying it establishes cause. No. The experiment may...
That's not what I'm saying.
And he's going to fucking talk through me, isn't he? Of course he is.
Yep.
Of course he is. You're the stupidest person on the panel. I'm trying to explain to you, the dumb one, what you don't know, and we've spent about 10 minutes dragging out of you while somebody in the G+ ruins this. Anthony, can you pop yourself on mute? Thank you. So, no. You still haven't got it right, and you're talking through me, and I've tried to attempt to tell you what is actually the correct answer, but you won't seem to let me. So, what, do you want a 4th attempt to get it wrong?
Go for it. Tell me.
I want you to say I don't know. Have some humility. You've told me that I don't understand these words I use. So on the same stream, I want you, the one who clearly doesn't know, to concede that you don't know. I want you to have some humility.
I don't know what the answer is that you want from me, Nathan.
You don't know what a hypothesis is.
As there isn't one single definition.
Yeah,
of
there
a
is.
hypothesis.
Yeah, there
It's
is.
impossible for me
Yeah,
to
you've
have
just given
that.
3 incorrect ones, and you don't know, but you don't seem to have any humility. At this point, I'm going to say you've got no shame.
Sure, okay then. I don't know.
Doesn't that feel good?
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't that
Share
feel
your
nice?
pain.
Right. Let's see if I can explain.
Well done. You've proven you can still. Be
No
fully
worries,
honest
I'm now
with
going to
me,
tell
Nathan.
you.
Well
That just means you've got to shut up for a little bit. Yeah, your hypothesis establishes your presumed cause of an effect. Presumed cause. Not cause, presumed cause. Validated by systematic experimentation. So, if you don't know the cause of gravity, it's not been validated by systematic experimentation. Ergo, you have no scientific evidence of what you claim holds gas pressure to a spinning ball flying through a vacuum. Okay, sunshine?
Beautiful.
Except for the law of gravity is an observable fact and doesn't.
You know
There
what a
is no law of
fundamentalist
gravity.
is? Do you know what a zealot is? Do you know what that word means?
The law of gravity clearly states that things fall down towards a body of
They
Earth.
fall down, go boom, boom. There is no law of gravity. What is the law of gravity?
That things fall down.
Go boom, boom, go splash, splash.
So a person who is fanatical and uncompromising in pursuit of their religious, political, or other ideals. Do you know what that is? That's a zealot. It's you.
Nathan, I think I found out what was the problem with Globies.
They're pretender clowns?
Yeah, I think it's just pride. Pride is the issue.
Pride is definitely an issue. That's a good diagnosis, but I would call them fundamentalist zealot pretender clowns. That's what they are. Thanks.
That voice even better.
Nice definition.
Could I say something to Tewardy?
Say again, Brian?
Tewardy, in your belief about gravity, gravity is what gives things weight. Is that correct?
Gravity is an effect seen on mass that results in us being able to measure weight. Yeah, weight is a measurable thing in newtons.
Simplistically, it gives things weight.
Sure.
And gravity changes the weight of stuff. As in your belief, if I was to go closer to the moon, due to less gravitational pull, I would have less weight.
Yes, but you'd be the same mass.
Yes. Yeah, the mass doesn't change in that belief, but the weight does. And if I got closer to the center of a mass, let's say the center of a globe Earth, then my weight should increase, yes?
That I'm not sure about, but it sounds reasonable, yeah.
Well, why would it not?
Well, because if you've got an extremely large mass and you go to the center of it, then surely a larger portion of that mass is behind you than in front of you. So it seems reasonable that you could, in part at least, be pulled in the opposite direction. So I'm a little bit confused by that. But this is a thing about gravity that I don't understand.
I said closer to the center, not to the actual center, just closer.
Yeah, so the closer we get to Earth, the more force we see exerted on ourselves.
So, okay, now this is the contradiction. If I'm standing on ground level, okay, my weight and mass are about the same. If I go higher in that belief of gravity, my weight and mass change. My mass doesn't change, but the weight of my mass does.
Correct.
You would agree with that, yes? Right.
Yes.
So if I was to go a bit closer to the center, but not past halfway, then my weight should increase. Would you not agree with that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So is there any exception? Would you say there's any exception to that rule?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know.
Okay. If I'm standing next to an 8-foot deep swimming pool and I dive into that swimming pool to the bottom of that swimming pool and then 8 feet closer to the center of that mass, yet I'm actually lighter because my mass is being supported by the medium around me. So how does gravity explain that?
So the same amount of gravity is still acting upon you, but because you're now in a body of water, the buoyant force is pushing you in the opposite direction, which is acting to the contrary, which is why things float.
But is that not contradictory?
No, because gravity is not being undone or changed in any way. The formula still holds true, except that there is another piece of the formula.
What formula, please?
What, the mass attracting mass formula for gravity?
Yes. Are you talking about the universal law of gravitation?
Yeah.
That I told you that is not a scientific law. Are you in live chat? Here on Discord.
I'm on Discord. I don't tend to watch the YouTube stuff. I don't really want to give
Okay.
Nathan the view, to be honest.
You're in Discord. You got the live stream chat right here. I want you to post the formula for Newton's universal law of gravitation.
It starts with F equals.
Yeah, that's the one. F equals, and it contains the gravitational constant. And there's the problem, is that the constant is an ever-changing. Well, it's supposed to be constant, but
what constant are you talking about? I would need to see the formula first. Can you please post the formula in here? I need to see it, not you talking through it. Oh, okay. Zanuck said, hey, Zanuck, you still being as honest as Milli Vanilli? He said QE. It is not a formula. It is an equation. Okay. Post the equation for the universal law of gravitation in here right now.
Are you still there, T. Wardy?
Hold on a second, Brian.
Yeah, it's just
okay. Okay.
So Newton's law of universal gravitation is F equals G over M1 M2 over R squared. Yeah.
That is incorrect.
Okay, what's incorrect about that formula?
The G. Newton
why is that
never
incorrect?
Ever formulated big G in the universal law of gravitation.
Why?
That's not the correct formula.
No, what's wrong with big G?
It is not the Newtonian law of universal gravitation. Big G does not appear in it. Who calculated big G? And what year? What year was big G calculated?
So you're talking about how the formula was essentially come to after Newton died.
You asked for... Hold on. Let me summarize. You asked for the universal law of gravitation. That's not it.
So you don't know what you're talking about, sir. This is like the 10th time.
So when you said the formula still works, which formula were you referring to?
He's clarified that. He said the universal law of gravitation. And when
but he got it wrong.
And when challenged to provide it, he got it wrong. It isn't. It's incorrect.
Yeah, but he's got it wrong. The formula that he cited is incorrect. So now I want to know which formula he thinks still works when he cited the incorrect formula.
To be clear, Newton did estimate big G. He just didn't know what it was.
No, he didn't. No, he did not.
Where'd you get that from? Where'd you get that from? Make it up? Top of your head?
Yep, MSU.
Making shit up university? Where'd you get that from? Newton had an idea about G.
Because we know that he found no hypothesis for gravitation.
If I'm wrong, I'm happy to concede this.
You are wrong. We've just told you that. No, you're not happy to concede. We spent 20 minutes with you not conceding. We had to breathe a sigh of relief eventually. 15, 20 minutes of you conceding. It's not an easy task when you say, oh, well, if I'm wrong, I'll just concede. No, you won't. That's demonstrably not the case. You don't just concede, do you? Let me tell you now. That's not the formula for the universal law of gravitation. That's wrong. Will you concede that? You are wrong.
What's the correct
See how quickly you
formula,
concede? Oh no, he's going to talk through me before I've even finished the statement. You are wrong. That is not the universal law of gravitation. G came along much later. CV Boys calculated it. But of course, while I'm telling you just how fucking wrong you are, you're going to talk, aren't you? That's because you're ignorant. That's what ignorant people do. While they're being corrected on how ignorant and incorrect they are, they talk. That's what you've just done. I've just told you where that G came from. but I can almost guarantee that you didn't hear what I said because you talked rather than listened. Am I correct? Who calculated Big G? I've just told you. Let's see if you did actually listen whilst talking through me.
Plato?
Pardon?
Plato!
Yeah, I just said the guy's name.
Oh,
But the problem was that you talked.
You were just rambling on.
Yeah, I gave you the guy's name. I gave you the guy's name for who calculated that G that you incorrectly put into the universal law of gravitation. You are wrong. You moments earlier said that you would just concede if you were wrong. Is that going to happen, or are you a liar?
If I'm wrong,
You are wrong. Now we're trying to prove you a liar by demonstrating that you're not conceding, contrary to what you said about 2 minutes ago, that you just concede and said again now. But you're not conceding. You are wrong, though.
I still accept that I will concede if you can show why I'm wrong.
Oh, G came along a lot later.
112 years, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct, Anthony. Excuse me, we're talking now. You've
Maybe he's
asked us.
just wrong, but you can think of it as if he was right.
No, he is wrong. When we've told him why. G came along later, it's not part of the universal law of gravitation. But he's not conceding he's wrong now, is he? It's surprising that, given that he said he would concede.
Hang on. Can I have a link to some information that shows that?
What, how you're 100 years, 112 years out of date? It's fairly easy to come by. I would have expected you, who just made that shit up, to have it to hand, given that you just said that he knew about G. That was your claim. So why would you be asking me to verify that shit which you just made up?
No,
sorry, are you going to challenge me to provide you with a link now, are you? Sorry, you just made something up, my friend. Are you going to ask me for a link? That seems a bit unreasonable, given that you just made that shit up and I didn't. We're just challenging you on the shit you made up. You don't know what's going on here, mate. You're making stuff up. We know better, and you're asking us to back the shit that you've made up. No, mate. Back that it's not. Back that it's not CV Boys 112 years later.
So you're telling
back
me
that
I'm
shit
wrong
up, my
and
friend.
you're not gonna cite the correct-
Back up that it's not
Back up your
CV
citation.
Boys 112 years later. And that it
No, I think
is
it's reasonable that he
actually
asked-
Newton. Go ahead, my friend.
No, I think it's reasonable that he asks for evidence that CV Boys did do what you said. Can we get it on screen?
Hold on, Anthony. No. He's claimed...
I could, but I'm not.
No, we don't need to. He's claimed G was included in Newton's equation when describing the universal law of gravitation. That is incorrect. It does not contain G. Now, do I need to define where G did come from when his claim and his formula that he read out is wrong? No, I don't need to clarify where G came from and prove that G came later. It did. It's not included in that equation. If he actually looked up the equation that he talked about when he was making shit up, he'd have found for himself that the equation that he's talking about does not include G. So no, I don't need to provide anything here. I'm very careful in what I say so that I have to do anything. I'm very lazy. But I'll damn well sure hold his toes to the fire for the shit that he's making up. So you're going to back with citation that he already knew about G. You got any citations for that? Go and get me a link, please. I'd like that which you are now saying that you'll concede when you're wrong. I'd like you to prove that you're right.
Again, that's not what I said.
Yeah, do you want to prove that you're right?
It doesn't make you right.
All right, we're recording, my friend. We've got it on tape what you said.
Prove that you're right. Prove that the little G was in Newton's.
Yeah. Prove your claim, my friend.
Big G.
Yeah, do you want to go and get us a link for that? Because according to you, you're right, and we'll concede if you're wrong. But of course, being right would require some cowbell now, wouldn't it? You backing up the shit that you spout, as opposed to challenging us to do your work for you. You've made a positive claim. He knew about it, didn't he? According to you. You're going to prove that? You got some links? You got some citations for me? You're going to talk through me while I challenge you to back what you say? Again.
That was what I said.
Yeah, so back it. Give me a link. Give me a citation. Prove Newton knew all about it 100 years. The guy's obviously bloody clairvoyant. So this your concession? Is this a link? This next sentence? Is this a link? This next word salad? Link. Citation, please. In live stream. Back which you have claimed. Don't challenge us to disprove it, my friend. And should you fail to prove what you claim, you're going to be really easily conceding that you're wrong, aren't you, my friend? Like you've said you will. Come on! Link! Live stream! He already knew about it, didn't he, my friend?
Triggered.
Not triggered, waiting for a link from a fundy who's made a claim that he can't back and has also claimed he would concede he's wrong. Well, the standard is to back which you claim. Simple. You've made a claim, now you back it. If you can't, you concede you can't back it and you're wrong. In the face of us telling you where it has come from twice.
Whether or not Newton knew about Big G is some.
What, like you just claimed and can't prove? Is this you not conceding that you're wrong? Whether or not he knew, you've claimed he did. So get on with it.
It's an irrelevant point.
It's the point you made. That you said you'd concede if you were wrong. Now it's an irrelevant point. What, your points are irrelevant? Why are we even talking to you then if you keep making irrelevant points? It's your point, dickhead.
Because you're claiming you know something I don't. So
you've claimed he knew about G. You claimed you knew what the universal law of gravitation was. You seem to claim to be a big, wig, clever dick. But you don't seem to be backing anything you say. You also seem to say that you'll concede you're wrong. And when you fail to prove which you claim, you talk through me rather than actually backing which you claim. You just talk through me. That's your modus operandi. You choose to just obfuscate me pointing out that you haven't backed what you've claimed. Still don't see a citation in live stream. Are you busy Googling it? Thought you'd have it to hand, given that you claimed it.
One from you.
From me? I haven't claimed it. You've claimed you already knew about Big G.
Well, you've claimed that
you claimed he already knew. That's why we're having these prolonged silences. You've made a claim. He already knew. In the face of us pointing out that that's not the universal law of gravitation. That's where we're at. You also saying that you'd concede really easily. What, we're going to have another 15 minutes? Yeah, demonstratively. And I'm going to get rumpused. Every time I point out that he said he'd concede. And like last time, I said, no way, will you? You're a liar. You've just said you'll concede. And here we are with you not providing any citations for your fundy nonsense that you've made shit up. University claim. Yeah? You haven't backed what you've claimed, my friend. You're wrong. When will you concede this like you said you'd easily do, you liar?
I will happily look into this and come back to you with corrections.
Look into it. You've made a claim already. You mean you're making a claim from incredulity? You haven't got a clue what you're even talking about when you make claims. You can't back it up. You've got to research it after you've made the claim.
Nathan, can I just point something out to you that you missed? When you raised your voice before, he very jovially went, triggered. Well, I'm going to point out now very jovially that you are exposed.
Yeah, exposed, my friend.
Hang on a minute. We began this conversation with you guys
who doesn't seem to know what he's talking about and has now declared that you're going to go away and research after you've made a claim. Wow. Exposed as a pretender clown. That's the very...
Exposed about 45 minutes ago. This has been exposure after exposure. I mean, goodness gracious, people. This is what you get for parroting friggin' pretender clown baloney, sir. Mindlessly parroting pretender clown baloney that you've heard. You have done zero due diligence or scrutiny. You're a mindless parroter. Zealot pretender clown. That's it.
Let me wrap this up by asking the fundamental question that started all this. What's holding the atmosphere from bursting into the vacuum of space?
Gravity.
It isn't.
Pseudo. Covered this 5 times. Let's do it again.
Okay, if it's not gravity, what is it?
Pseudo. Oh, thank you for asking the question.
There is holding it from bursting into the vacuum of space, mate.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. If the sky was a vacuum, as asserted in the heliocentric reification of a model, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. And with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who've tuned in on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream 4. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Also, of course, a massive thank you to all of today's Discord and G+ Hangouts for making this debate possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!